Full Metal Storm, Battle of the Machines. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 820 Crested Hyperspace. A few days later, the first snow since the beginning of winter fell. And it was heavy snow. The snow continued to snow, and the snowflakes gradually covered the ground. At the same time, Luoyan could not see the road clearly. His vision was severely reduced to a range of 5 meters. For safety, Luoyan had to open the Shenzang. Now he was not far from Fenshu, but the road began to accumulate snow, and his motorcycle might be difficult to move forward. If he wanted to move forward, he needed to make some modifications. Or, he could just change to a snowmobile. Luoyan looked at the navigation system on the motorcycle. There was the latest surface information. This service was only available after the strategic office established a large number of satellite communication base stations in the safe areas of various regions, and retrieved some of the lost satellites in the low Earth orbit. In addition, Guangling has recently started to install a city defense railgun. Since the last strategic office press conference announced this new technology, it has been tried in Jinj City and has now begun to be promoted to other underground cities. With it, the safety of the underground city can be better guaranteed. At this time, the motorcycle navigation system showed that there was a surface base nearby. This surface base is next to a forbidden area. So it seems that this surface base should have what he wants. So Luoyan set the location target on this base called Crowned Crane. Not long after, he saw the walls and gates of the base. The snow was getting heavier. In the heavy snow, a layer of snow had piled up on the walls of the base. There was no guard near the closed gate. It seemed that the weather was too cold and the guards had hidden in the house to keep warm. Luoyan drove to the gate alone and honked the horn. Woo woo woo. After the horn honked several times, a small door next to the base gate opened. A base guard with a submachine gun in his arms, a cloak on his body, and a hood pulled up came out. As soon as he came out, he pointed the gun at Luoyan, and his face was not friendly at all. "What are you doing?" The guard stopped a few dozen meters away from Luoyan, and he shouted with a Shaanxi accent. "I'm just passing by. The snow is too strong. I want to borrow a place to hide from the snow and buy some things I need." Luoyan was also wearing a cloak, but his hood was pulled down. He also took off the windproof mask, trying his best to show that he was harmless. The guard glanced at Luoyan and waved his hand, saying, "Get out. You are not welcome here." Luoyan's face immediately fell. "Are you serious?" The guard also got angry and shouted, "The moon has entered the house. The more you look at you, the more you are coming, right? Hurry up and get out, or you can't leave." He fired a shot at the snow pile under Luoyan's feet, and a few drops of snow mud splashed on Luoyan's face. The guard sneered and walked back with a gun in his arms. "Look at you. You are so stupid, and you are pretending to be me. You are so stupid, you are delaying my warmth and eating." Before he finished speaking, he heard Luoyan shouting from behind, "Hey, what are you doing? You bastard, are you looking for death?" The guard turned around suddenly. Luoyan got off the motorcycle and walked forward with a cold expression. His red eyes were filled with murderous intent. The guard's eyes also turned cold. He picked up his rifle and pulled the trigger. Bang, bang, bang. The submachine gun spewed flames. When the bullets landed on Luoyan, a golden light surged on the surface of his body. Mystical art, golden armor. This mysterious art can even block a few rounds from a sniper rifle, let alone a submachine gun. Moreover, dragon scales appeared on Luoyan's body. At this moment, his physical defense can already block sniper rifles. If he activates the transformation into a dragon posture, even the frontal bombardment of the tank's main gun will not kill him. Luoyan charged head-on. The distance of several meters was just a blink of an eye. The guard knew that he had encountered a tough guy and hurriedly shouted, "I was wrong." Before he could spit out the last word, his face was pinched by Luoyan. Luoyan threw it hard, and the guard crashed into the gate of the base, and blood splattered immediately. The sound of gunfire and collision attracted the attention of other guards in the base. They poked their heads out from the small door and the high wall and saw their colleagues with their faces pressed against the gate, sliding down little by little, leaving a trail of blood on the mottled gate with their faces. Immediately, 7 or 8 rifles were pointed at Luoyan. What happened? There was another figure on the high wall at this moment, but it was a tall man. He looked down at Luoyan, as if he was judging Luoyan's strength. A guard nearby had already told the story, but he didn't dare to exaggerate. These people roamed the surface, especially in places like the Forbidden Area. They knew a lot of things. For example, you can't judge a person's strength from his appearance and age. Especially, the man just hit the enemy with a barrage of bullets. It can't be underestimated. If it is not handled properly, it is likely to bring disaster to the base. So after Luoyan showed his tough side, these guys who have become smart people knew that what they can and should do now is to tell the truth. The man who seemed to be a supervisor nodded after hearing this. I'm sorry, brother. It's Du's fault for not disciplining you. Your head tax will be waived. Later, Du will give you 2 bottles of good wine to warm you up. Is that okay? Luoyan nodded. Thank you. Luoyan had already vented his anger, and the crested ibis base did not make things difficult. Both sides took a step back and there was no need to make things too awkward. Later, the gate opened. Luoyan drove into the base, and according to the instructions, he parked the car in the designated place of the base, then took the dragon elephant, and walked into the base. It was similar to other bases. The crested ibis base had a complex architectural layout and a complex personnel. The 2 mechs standing in the wind and snow in the distance were the foundation of the existence of this base and the guarantee of the rules in the base. Luoyan carried a sword and walked casually in the streets and alleys. He saw that the exterior walls here were painted with various patterns. There were colorful patterns, sexy girls with exaggerated proportions, and skulls with rivets all over them. There was Zankui holding a sword to catch ghosts, and there was a monk with his hands clasped together, his upper body holy and his lower body full of insects. Madness, chaos, decadence. After walking around the base casually, Luoyan finally found a car dealership. The car dealership sold all kinds of vehicles, from motorcycles to off-road vehicles. They also had modification services, and even if you wanted to install an anti-aircraft machine gun on your car, the owner vowed that he could do it. Luoyan didn't need any machine guns, he himself was the most powerful weapon. So he showed a picture of his motorcycle, and then expressed his desire to modify it to be able to walk on the snow. The owner suggested selling the motorcycle to him, and then adding some money. It would be more convenient to buy a snowmobile directly. Luoyan nodded, and then wanted to see the goods, so the owner asked the clerk to get the car. While waiting, Luoyan leaned against the doorframe of the car dealership, and looked at the street. There were people coming and going on the street. At this time, he saw a woman walking by. The woman covered herself with a cloak, looked panicked, and kept looking around, as if she was afraid of being discovered. She happened to look at Luoyan. The moment they looked at each other, she shifted her sight and quickly disappeared in the crowd. There was a palm-sized red spot on the left side of the woman's face, and the surface was uneven. It was not known whether it was a birthmark or a mark left by a burn. This made her originally beautiful face become unbearable to look at. Chapter 821 Blade. When the car shop assistant brought a snowmobile, the man surnamed Du at the gate of the base also came over, holding 2 bottles of wine. Luoyan was a little surprised, thinking that he was just saying some polite words, but he was serious. When the car shop owner saw the man surnamed Du, he hurriedly came out to greet him. What wind brought Captain Du here? Captain Du smiled and looked at Luoyan. I came to see this little brother. Come on, little brother. This is an apology. Luoyan accepted his 2 bottles of wine. Captain Du said again, little brother, are you here for that strange fish too? Luoyan knew that he was referring to the dark fish, and he was not surprised. After all, this place was close to the Fenshu area. It was not surprising that the news spread here. In addition, this man surnamed Du should be trying to test his mouth. So Luoyan did not answer but asked instead, what strange fish? Captain Du chuckled and said, you don't know? Forget it then. But I see that you are quite skilled, little brother. How about making some money? It just so happens that our base has some missions recently. I can introduce you to some. Luo Yan hurriedly said, I appreciate your kindness, but I'm just passing by. I'll leave when the snow stops. Captain Du did not force him. He said oh, and then said sincerely, little brother, don't blame me for being long-winded. We are just friends, but we have deep feelings for each other. When you are in the wild, remember not to meddle in other people's business. It's not peaceful outside lately. Luo Yan's heart moved. Is it because of the strange fish you just mentioned? Captain Du nodded. Yes, Pingayao Underground City has issued a long-term mission, and they are looking for a strange fish. That thing has recently come to this area, so it has attracted a lot of people, many of whom are desperate criminals. There have been a lot of bloody incidents in the wild recently. You'd better be careful when you are alone. Luo Yan bowed and said, thanks for the reminder. Captain Du smiled and said, you're welcome. He then looked at the owner of the car shop. Old Huang, don't sell inferior products as good ones and ruin the reputation of our base. The boss, surnamed Huang, hurriedly said, no, don't worry, Captain Du, I get what I pay for. Captain Du then left. After the captain left, Boss Huang said with a smile, sir, so you and Captain Du know each other. Why didn't you say so earlier? Take a look at this car. If you think it's suitable, you can drive away. No need to give me more money. If you want one with better performance, I still have it. You can buy it or rent it. But if you rent a car, a deposit is required. Luo Yan thought that he might have to chase the Hades fish on the snow next, so he asked for a car with better performance. A moment later, a snowmobile with a unique shape and black paint appeared in front of Luo Yan. Blade, I modified it myself. It can reach a maximum speed of 150 km per hour, but I don't recommend it. It's easy to overturn if it goes too fast. Basically, a speed of 70 to 80 km per hour is the most ideal. Its chassis is higher and thicker, and it's heavy enough, so it's not easy to overturn. But when crossing the river, even if it's frozen, you have to be careful. It may crush the ice because of its weight, which will be troublesome. Besides that, there is almost no place it can't go. Even when there is no snow, it can still drive. You just need to remove the sled in front. Listening to the boss's introduction, Luo Yan was very satisfied with this snowmobile. So he sold his motorcycle to the car dealership, added some money, and bought the blade. Blade removed the sled at the bottom and replaced it with a spare front tire, so it can be used as a motorcycle. It's very convenient. There's no need to worry about not being able to slide when there is no snow. In addition, since the blade uses hybrid power, the car dealership owner also gave Luo Yan replaceable batteries and spare gasoline. It can be said to be very considerate. Next, Luo Yan bought some clean water and dry food at the base, tied a large bag of things to the snowmobile with ropes, and drove the blade away from the crested ibis base. Outside the base, the snow had stopped. The afternoon sun shone on the snow, and the light was very dazzling. If you don't wear goggles at this time, it is easy to cause snow blindness. In a forest more than 10 kilometers away from the base, pieces of charred parts and bodies still bleeding were scattered on the white snow. These traces extended to about 100 meters ahead, where several off-road vehicles were burning. Some people in the vehicles even jumped down screaming because of the burning, and then there was no sound. More than a dozen snowmobiles surrounded the scene, and men wearing helmets, cloaks, holding guns or knives, were looking for something in the pile of corpses. Suddenly, a figure in the pile of corpses jumped up like a rabbit and rushed towards a snowmobile at a very fast speed. A man at the scene raised his gun, but was held down by a man wearing a red helmet. Are you crazy? How can we explain to Boss Ken if we kill her? Then he yelled, why are you still standing there? Catch her. The men hurriedly ran towards the figure. It was a woman. She climbed onto a snowmobile with a key in the motorcycle. She turned the key to start the motorcycle, and as soon as she stepped on the accelerator, the motorcycle rushed out with a roar. The people behind her got on the motorcycle and chased after her. So in the snow, the two sides of the people chased each other in the snow-covered forest. Among them, the man wearing a red helmet shouted, "Shoot, you idiots. If you can't kill people, won't she stop if you scare her?" After saying that, he picked up a submachine gun and fired a burst of bullets at the snow near the woman in front. Bang, bang, bang. Snow and mud splashed everywhere, and the woman turned in fear. The snowmobile crashed into an old pine tree, shaking off the snow on the tree. She flew off the vehicle and landed on the cold but soft snow. The hood on her head fell to the ground. She was wearing goggles and a bumpy red spot on her left cheek, which looked particularly ugly in the silvery white snow. She wanted to rush to the motorcycle, but the snow in front of her suddenly sprayed a series of snowflakes, which were caused by the chasing big man shooting past. The woman had no choice but to stop and step back a little bit. She stretched out a pistol from her cloak and shouted, "Don't come over here." The men surrounded her, and the man in the red helmet jumped out of the car, grinning. "Run. Why don't you run away? You bitch. You are good at hiding. I didn't pay attention and you ran to the crested hyperspace. Luckily I found you. Otherwise, Boss K would have cut off my head and eaten it with wine." The woman begged, "Brothers, please let me go. If you are willing to send me back to Pingayao, I promise to give each of you the identity of a resident of the underground city. Isn't this 100 times better than making a living on the surface?" Chapter 822 Walking on Fire. "Shut up, bitch." The red helmet sneered. "You think you can buy us off with just the identity of a dungeon resident? Don't think too lowly of us. Besides, what's wrong with the surface? Only wimps think of going to the dungeon. For the strong, the surface is our paradise." The woman didn't expect that her last trump card would also fail, and she was suddenly at a loss. The red helmet continued, "You are quite cunning, hiding yourself in this group of adventurers. I don't know what sweet words you used to deceive them. Poor these unlucky guys, they don't even know who you are. I don't know what kind of trouble you have caused. In the end, they lost their lives for you. I said, you have killed a lot of people along the way, right?" Tears welled up in the woman's eyes, and she shook her head. "I didn't. I didn't mean it. What can I do? In order to survive, I can only do this. Am I wrong? Besides, it's you who killed them, you murderers." The red helmet sneered, "You are good at shirking responsibility. Forget it. Don't blame me for not warning you. Boss K meant that you have to be alive. But he didn't say that your hands and feet cannot be broken. If you don't want to suffer physical pain, throw away the gun and follow us." As soon as he finished speaking, he heard the sound of a car. The red helmet raised his head and saw snow powder flying in the distance outside the woods. Later, a black snowmobile appeared in the field of vision. The motorcycle came to the vicinity, stopped for a moment, looked over here for a moment, and drove away. The red helmet shouted, "Kill him. Can't let him go." The wind carried the words of the red helmet to the ears of the rider on the black motorcycle. Luo Yan snorted softly in his nostrils. He came out of the crested hyperspace and walked all the way to the direction of Fenshu. Unexpectedly, more than 10 kilometers away from the base, he ran into the red helmet and others, and the woman he saw outside the car dealership at the edge of the woods. Based on the principle of less trouble is worse than more trouble, Luo Yan didn't want to cause trouble. But those people targeted him instead. Luo Yan sighed softly. Sure enough, on the surface, enough blood and corpses are needed to accumulate one's own authority. He stopped. A few dragon scales appeared on the back of his chest. The hand seals were secretly formed in the cloak, protecting himself with a layer of golden armor. Then the dragon elephant was unsheathed. The footwork dragonfly touching water was used. Luo Yan's figure suddenly disappeared on the snow. When he reappeared, he was near one of the snowmobiles. The dragon elephant had penetrated the roof of the motorcycle, and the veins on Luo Yan's well-muscled arms suddenly bulged. The motorcycle was immediately lifted up by the dragon elephant's sword, starting with the headlights, and disintegrated in mid-air, along with the rider on the motorcycle, which was also broken into several pieces. The motorcycle fragments and human internal organs fell to the snow-white ground like rain. The wheels and the head rolled to the side of another motorcycle next to it, scaring the rider on it to scream, turn the front of the motorcycle, and run away. With a blank mind, he just wanted to stay away from Luo Yan, the devil. As for the consequences of deserting the battlefield, he no longer cared. Fuck, Abin is dead. The point is difficult to use. Grab your weapons. The remaining men did not run away in fear because of the death of a companion. They shouted loudly and raised their machine guns to shoot at Luo Yan. Da 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 da. The dense gunfire was heard almost everywhere, and the snow was quickly covered with bullet holes. Snowflakes flew several meters high, and snow and mud splashed everywhere, making the snow messy. Luo Yan didn't want his newly bought car to be scrapped before it was even warmed up, so he used the dragonfly, touching the water continuously. His figure flickered on the snow and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The men immediately chased him on motorcycles. They thought Luo Yan was scared and wanted to escape, but unexpectedly, after pulling away for hundreds of meters, Luo Yan stopped. Then the golden light on his body surged, and the brilliant light flowed on Luo Yan's body and condensed into an illusory long robe. This long robe, with large sleeves fluttering, is quite ancient. There is a sun wheel pattern on the back. It is the iconic thing of Yan Yangjing, Yan Yi. After putting on the Yan Yi, Luo Yan is like wearing a piece of thorny armor. He no longer retreats. Dragon elephant slashes in the air. Scorching golden waves swept across the snow, and the snow immediately showed signs of melting. Several motorcycles were torn apart and exploded by the sword energy of Yan Yang. In the light of the explosion, Luo Yan flashed into the convoy. As soon as he approached, the high temperature of the Yan Yi alone caused the fuel tanks of the snowmobiles to spontaneously ignite and explode. In addition, the dragon elephant sword pointed in all directions. So the red helmet and the woman in the woods looked in astonishment at the person who was supposed to be silenced, but flattened the entire convoy. The last motorcycle was blown into pieces, and a body was thrown out in the flying parts. The red helmet shuddered and looked at the stranger passing by stepping on the fire. He shouted quickly, "Misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I am." Before he finished speaking, a simple Han sword was reflected in the mask of his helmet. The Han sword, with a golden blade, cut horizontally. Suddenly, the red helmet and the head inside were split into two. The cut was smooth and neat, as if it had been swept by a laser. Then, the corpse with smoke rising from it fell straight to the snow. Zizzy. The dragon elephant falling on the snow melted the nearby snowflakes and turned them into water vapor. He put away his yuanli, and the Yanri clothes with large sleeves like ancient clothes on his body turned into wisps of golden light and disappeared. Luo Yan glanced at the red spotted woman indifferently, turned around and left. After he left dozens of footprints in the snow, the woman finally reacted and chased after him with deep and shallow steps. She shouted, "Wait, please wait a moment. My name is Kyotang, Song Kyotang. Can you escort me back to Pingyao? I will reward you with a large sum of money." Luo Yan ignored him. He didn't have time to do such a thing now. Coming to the side of the blade, Luo Yan put the dragon elephant into the scabbard, then sat on the motorcycle and started the engine. It seems that Luo Yan is going to leave. Song Kyotang bit her lip, as if she had made some kind of determination, and shouted, "Do you want to find the strange fish? I have a way. You should be here for the mission in Pingyao too, right? I can help you find the strange fish, but afterwards, you have to send me home. And, you have to ensure my safety." Luo Yan stopped and stared at Song Kyotang intently. "Can you find the strange fish? I remind you, if you lie to me, the consequences will be serious." Song Kyotang nodded. "I know. But I didn't lie to you. I really can find the strange fish. I'm a biological expert in Pingyao. A colleague and I have developed a device to track strange fish. Similar to the Behemoth radar, as long as a strange fish appears within the detection range, its position can be locked. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 823 Jiuying. Song Kyotang, 29 years old, a resident of Pingyao underground city. The red eyes were filled with circles of silver light. With the silver eyes of peering activated, Luo Yan withdrew his sight from Song Kyotang's information line, but continued to spy on her thoughts. If she lied, Luo Yan would find out. That strange fish, like the giant beast, also has an energy spectrum that can be identified? Luo Yan asked. He had encountered the Hades fish and knew what it was. But here, he asked knowingly, naturally to test Song Kyotang. Song Kyotang shook her head. No, that strange fish will not have a spectral signal similar to that of a giant beast. We also planned to start from this point at the beginning, but we failed. However, in the process, we found that the strange fish would release a special sound wave. We speculated that it should use this sound wave to explore the waterway to determine its direction. So we collected data on that sound wave, which took us a lot of time. Finally, God rewards those who work hard. After obtaining enough data, we developed a device that can track the special sound waves emitted by the strange fish within a limited range. We call that device Jiuying. Luoyan looked around. You don't seem to have such a device with you. Song Qiutang said frankly, that's because it was stolen. The woman looked at the corpse in the red helmet next to her. These are people from the Chang Logistics Company. They run a camp. A month ago, when we started using Jiuying to track the strange fish, the Yanfu space suddenly opened, and a giant beast descended from the sky. I and several colleagues got separated from the team, and then we ran into them, Chang Logistics. We originally hired them to escort us to reunite with our team, but they changed their minds after knowing that Jiuying could track the strange fish. They killed 2 of my male colleagues, one of whom was my husband. At this point, Song Qiutang gritted her teeth. They thought that I, a woman, would be easier to control, and they left me behind because they didn't know how to control Jiuying. They asked me to control Jiuying to help them find the strange fish. To achieve this goal, they even destroyed my face. Song Qiutang gently stroked the ugly red spot on her face. Later, I pretended to agree, and when I went out, I took advantage of their carelessness and escaped. It was going smoothly at first, but we were still discovered by them at the crested hyperspace. You already know what happened next. Luoyan raised his eyebrows. Oh, in other words, Jiuying is in the hands of Chang Logistics. Song Qiutang nodded. Yes, and only their boss Kezen knows where Jiuying is. Luoyan said lightly. In this way, if I want to get Jiuying, I must eradicate Chang Logistics, or at least kill Kezen. You want to use me to avenge your husband? Song Qiutang said bluntly. Yes, I don't have the ability to avenge him. I can only rely on external forces. Anyway, this is just a side job for you. If you want to get Jiuying, you can only do this. Of course, if you can get Jiuying without killing Kezen, I will also operate Jiuying to help you find the strange fish as agreed. Luoyan nodded lightly. I'll go get the device. Whether to kill or not depends on the situation. I hope you can fulfill the promise. As a reward, I will personally send you to Pingyao after the matter is completed. Song Qiutang simply answered, okay, let's do it. Since the decision was made, Luoyan closed the Shenzang, and then picked up the gun in the red helmet's hand. Do you know how to use it? Song Qiutang nodded. Luoyan threw the submachine gun to her, and found several magazines on the red helmet, and handed them to Song Qiutang. Finally, Song Qiutang drove the red helmet's car, and went to the base camp of Chang Logistics with Luoyan. Halfway through the journey, thunder suddenly sounded in the sky. Luoyan thought it was a winter thunder, but when he looked up, he saw a black streak flying quickly in the distant sky. Yambu space. He hasn't seen Yambu space for almost half a year. During this period of peace, he almost thought that Yambu space had been closed. Now seeing the black streak floating in the sky, his heart tightened. Hide! Luoyan shouted, and drove Blade into a forest. Song Qiutang hurriedly followed, and the two snowmobiles turned off, and hid in the woods. Through the gaps in the leaves above, you can see that the black lines of the Yambu space that look like branches quickly pass through the woods. Then, the black in the sky suddenly expanded. Looking up from the ground, the sky seemed to be torn into a crack. In the dark crack, some terrifying figures can be vaguely seen moving. And behind those figures, Luoyan also saw the outline of the floating mountain. What exactly is a Yambu space? When asking this question or sighing, Luoyan saw that at the end of the branch-like branches of the Yambu space, something came out of the black space. Giant beast. The Yambu space bulged outward, and its round shape was like a ripe fruit about to fall to the ground. Then, the fruit broke away from the branch, and the giant beast began to unfold in 3 dimensions in the real world. In a blink of an eye, a feathered beast appeared in the distant sky. The feathered beast screamed, flapped its wings, and stirred up a strong wind, uprooting countless trees. Luo Yan quickly lay on the body of the blade. Soon, a large ball of snow and wind blew from the distance of the woods. The vision was immediately white. When the snow and wind subsided, the Yanfu space had disappeared, and the feathered beast also flew away. It only flew for a moment, and for some reason, it stopped, and then its huge body circled and changed direction. Luo Yan and the others hid in the woods, and did not move. The feathered beast usually has amazing eyesight, and if there are moving objects on the ground, it is easy to attract its attention. So, until the feathered beast could no longer be seen, Luo Yan gestured to Song Qiutang. The two set off again. In the evening, it snowed again. But this time the snow was not heavy, just a continuous fine snow, and it was unknown when it would stop. Finally, when it was dark, Luo Yan saw the camp operated by Chang Logistics. The camp was in a small town. He observed with a telescope. The camp had built a high wall in the town, with machine guns mounted on the wall. There were dim lights scattered in the camp, and it seemed that there were many people in the camp. At least dozens, or even hundreds of people. Luo Yan put down the telescope, and said to Song Qiutang, "You stay here, and wait for me to come back." Song Qiutang tightened the submachine gun in her hand. Her face was a little pale, and it could be seen that she was very scared, but she nodded. Luo Yan drove the blade down the snow slope and headed towards the town, where the camp was located. Chapter 824 Night Visit. Snow fell in the dark night. The wind blew from time to time, and the snowflakes rolled and danced, confusing the vision. Song Qiutang hid in the dark, looking at the town under the snow slope, and saw that Luo Yan did not hide his whereabouts. Even the bright lights of the blade were on in front, and he drove in so swaggeringly. He won't just go in like this, will he? Oh no, I should have reminded him that Kazan is a master of intermediate great perfection. With 40 or 50 brave and skilled men in his hands, he rushed in like this, which is tantamount to committing suicide. Song Qiutang, you are too careless. But this can't be blamed on me. I originally thought that he should be an experienced surface gold prospector. Who would have thought that he would walk in so swaggeringly? Could it be that he is a child trained by a big family in the underground city? Yes, it must be so. Only in this way can it be explained that he has such good kung fu, but his experience is so shallow. Song Qiutang looked around, wondering whether to escape. Luo Yan going in like this is no different from committing suicide. If she stayed any longer, she might be in danger. Wait a minute. Let's see what happens later. She felt that she was in the dark and a certain distance from the town. If something happened, she would still have time to escape. At this time, as Song Qiutang expected, the people in the camp in the town had already discovered Luo Yan. Immediately, several searchlights on the high wall of the camp lit up. Under the bright light, snowflakes flew, and the light beams fell on Luo Yan and blade in an interlaced manner. The reflection of a person and a car was clearly visible, and there was no possibility of hiding. Who is it? A guard on the high wall shouted. At the same time, the muzzles of more than a dozen submachine guns were pointed at Luo Yan. In the underground city, being able to possess such a force can already be called a tyrant. Blade stopped. Luo Yan raised his head in the light and said calmly, "Go inform Kazan. Song Qiutang is in my hands. If you want Song Qiutang, come out and see me." There was a commotion on the high wall. Song Qiutang? Didn't Brother Lei and the others go after her? How did Song Qiutang end up in this guy's hands? If Song Qiutang is in this guy's hands, then Brother Lei and the others. Soon, someone raised his voice. "Please wait a moment, we'll report to the boss right away." Luo Yan didn't have to wait too long. A few minutes later, the sound of cars came from the camp. Soon the gate opened, and motorcycles and off-road vehicles drove out of the camp. Dozens of cars, big and small, surrounded Luo Yan. The people in the cars were either holding submachine guns or pistols. There was even a rocket launcher. Anti-aircraft machine guns were installed on the two off-road vehicles, and the muzzles were naturally pointed at Luo Yan. After the encirclement was completed, an obviously modified car drove out, and the sunroof on the car became a shooting position. A firepower person held an anti-aircraft machine gun and pointed it at Luo Yan. The car door opened, and a man walked out. He was tall, wearing a fur-collared long coat, a black suit underneath, and a cigar in his mouth. He was very stylish. Luo Yan opened the Shenzhen to look. Kezen, the boss of Chang Logistics Company. Realm, intermediate great perfection. At this time, Kezen, who had a slicked back hair and should not appear in such a surface camp, but more like a rich man in a dungeon, spoke up. Where is Song Qiutang? Luo Yan said calmly, in my hands. Of course, she is not at the scene. Kezen nodded, that's normal. If it were me, I would not bring anyone here. So, Lei Bio and the others are dead. Luo Yan asked back, the one wearing a red helmet? Kezen blew out a smoke ring and swept the fallen snow off his shoulder with his hand. It seems that he is really dead. A lot of people died. While Luo Yan was talking, he observed the interior of the camp. He found that the grey light of the creatures in the camp had basically gathered here, or on the high wall. It seems that Kezen has moved out in full force. Opposite, the slicked back man took off his cigar, smoke escaping from his mouth. What do you want? You have Jiuying, and I have Song Qiutang. I think we can cooperate. Luo Yan had made a plan before coming, so he said calmly, cooperate to find that strange fish. Kezen laughed and pointed at Luo Yan with a golden ring. You are a very thoughtful kid. You are also very brave. He suddenly put away his smile. But do you think that, after killing Lei Bio and my people, I will still cooperate with you? Kid, I don't need to ask about Lei Bio's affairs. Hand over Song Qiutang and get out of here. Your life is my reward to you. Luo Yan was silent for a moment, then made a gesture of listening attentively, and then smiled. It's no longer necessary. Fool, you shouldn't have sent all the people out. We will accept Jiuying. After saying that, he activated the blade, turned around and started to rush. Kezen's expression changed. Suddenly, an idea popped up. Could it be that he has an accomplice? Did he show up on purpose to attract our attention? His accomplices went to look for Jiuying. Did they succeed? Kezen immediately shouted, kill him. So Song Qiutang, who was far away on the high slope, saw at this time that the people from Chang Logistics in the town were killing Luo Yan. But Kezen himself went to the camp for some reason. At the same time, Luo Yan suddenly slashed out several golden ripples. Wherever the ripples passed, vehicles exploded and people were thrown into the air. Luo Yan easily broke through the encirclement of Chang Logistics. Luo Yan ran at full speed, and behind him, the people from Chang Logistics chased him. In a blink of an eye, Song Qiutang saw Luo Yan driving the blade out of the town, but he did not come to meet him, but turned a corner and drove into a forest in the distance. After the people from Chang Logistics chased for a distance, they seemed to have received an order, and turned back to the town. Song Qiutang was confused, and had no idea what Luo Yan was doing. In the camp, in a building with dark exterior walls, Kezen put down the intercom as he walked. He had just asked the people who had chased out to come back, in case it was a trick, to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Then he hurried to the top floor, and walked into his room. No one is allowed to come in without my order. Before closing the door, Kezen ordered the 2 guards outside the door, and then closed the door. He walked to his desk, squatted down, lifted the carpet, and revealed a secret door on the floor. At the same time, at the other end of the camp, Luo Yan appeared like a ghost. After he got rid of the people from Chang Logistics, he parked the blade in a hidden place, and sneaked back to the camp on foot. Facing the wall with a high voltage power grid, Luo Yan just took a look, then jumped up, somersaulted from the power grid, and the next second, he landed steadily on the snow behind the wall. In front of him was the building where Kezen was. Chapter 825, Beast Form. In the building, Kezen took out something from the secret door in the floor. It looked like a portable briefcase, but much thicker, silver gray in color, and with a password input device on the surface. Kezen breathed a sigh of relief and snorted, you little bastard, you dare to bluff me. Don't let me catch you, or I'll make you suffer. But then he frowned again. Why did that guy bluff me? To lure me away, so he could break through? No, that guy broke the encirclement with just a few swords. I don't think he's any less skilled than me. Maybe he's a high level master. If he wants to leave, it'll only take a few minutes. There's no need to pretend. Besides, why did he come all the way here? Is it just to tease me? Impossible. So the only explanation is, Kezen looked at the box in his hand fiercely. He did it on purpose. He wanted me to come back and check if the Jiuying device is safe. His purpose is to find Jiuying. After figuring this out, Kezen immediately stood up and shouted, "Someone come quickly." He wanted to strengthen the security of the camp and contact certain people at the same time. The door was pushed open. But the person who came in was not the guard outside the door. It was a man wearing a cloak with a hood pulled up. The other party pulled down his hat, revealing a slightly messy black hair and two not so bright red eyes. Luoyan. Kezen's whole body trembled, and then his eyes became gloomy. Luoyan looked at the device next to him, stretched out his hand and said, "Give it to me. I'll leave right away. It's good for both of us." Kezen smiled as a matter of course. "What are you thinking, kid? You dare to talk to me like that when you're a guy whose hair hasn't even grown out yet? Don't think you're arrogant just because you're at a high level." Kezen looked at Luoyan calmly. "Let me guess, you must be a descendant of a big family in the underground city, right? After all, you dare to walk alone in the wilderness, so you must have reached a high level. Indeed, at your age, it's amazing to be able to reach a high level. But this is the wilderness, the surface, and anything can happen here. Don't even mention the high level. Even if you're at a high level, you may not be able to roam the wilderness, and only the children of those big families will look down on those of us who make a living on the surface from the bottom of their hearts. Only you think that we can take whatever we want. Am I wrong?" As he spoke, Kezen took out a remote control from his hand that was behind his back just now and pressed it. At the same time, in the dormitory of the camp, an alarm suddenly sounded. This alarm. "The boss office has been invaded. Quick, grab your weapons." What happened tonight? Things happened one after another. I have a feeling that something big is going to happen. The employees of Chang Logistics rushed out of the dormitory, received their equipment and weapons, and ran to the building where Kezen was. On the top floor of the building, Luoyan said calmly, "I don't mean to look down on anyone. I'm just stating a fact." Choke. Dragon elephant was unsheathed. Luoyan said calmly, "It seems that you are unwilling to hand over Jiuying, so we have to use the ancient way to solve this matter. Just what I want." Kezen tore off his tar, twisted his neck, and his body crackled. "Do you understand? After I kill you, I will twist your head off, dry it and hang it outside the camp. To warn those self-righteous and overconfident guys. Don't challenge my authority casually." Roar. The man suddenly let out a beastly roar. His body was shaking violently. The black hair combed back to the back of his head turned dark red from the roots. Black hair turned red and grew rapidly. Suddenly, Kezen's hair was disheveled. The changes continued. His nose protruded forward, and four fangs emerged from his lips. Kezen's well-fitting suit was torn apart by his swollen body, and turned into strips of cloth, especially the sleeves and trouser legs, which made his hands and feet, which suddenly swelled by at least one circle, expand into the shape of trumpets. The hands and feet exposed to the air were quickly covered with thick red animal hair, and sharp claws grew at the same time. Just like that, Kezen, like the legendary werewolf, completed the transformation from human to beast in front of Luoyan's eyes. Luoyan's eyes flashed with surprise. Such a development, such a change. It was indeed beyond his expectations. Circles of silver appeared in his red eyes. Luoyan took in the figure of the red orc opposite. Beast transformation. Blood wolf. Under the premise of maintaining rationality, it obtains the power and posture of a fierce beast, but it will still be affected by the blood of the beast. Once the blood of the beast boils, it can no longer restore its human nature, and will forever sink in this posture. Transformed into a beast. Luoyan was surprised. This was so close to his transformation into a dragon. In addition, I don't know if it was stimulated by Kezen's current posture. The dragon blood essence in Luoyan's body was ready to move. Are you surprised? Are you scared? Yes, you should be scared. I'm in this state now, but I can fight even the high-level realm. Kezen grinned, then squatted deeply, making a posture like a beast about to pounce. Then he suddenly exerted force and shot at Luoyan like a cannonball. Boom. There was a loud noise. The room shook. Kezen went back to where he came from. He flew over the Jiuying device and hit the wall, almost embedding his whole body. A puff of blood mist spurted out of his mouth. He was full of disbelief. This is impossible. Kezen looked at Luo Yan. At this time, Luo Yan had a dark red curved horn sticking out from under his black hair. His whole body and even his face were covered with grey-blue scales, and a faint white aura occasionally emanated from the gaps between the scales. A golden vertical line appeared in his red eyes, making Luo Yan's eyes look like the eyes of some cold-blooded animal. He was observing Kezen coldly. Even with the cloak covering his face, he could not prevent the red light emitted by his blood pupils from faintly shining through his chest. Dragon transformation. Amber light rose and condensed into the phantom of a lizard dragon beast behind Luo Yan. The beast showed interest in Kezen and hissed with its mouth open. Kezen felt like he was facing his natural enemy. His whole body went limp and he could not muster any strength. He lost his voice and said, "How can you become like this? Are you also a blood descendant?" Luo Yan did not answer him. In his peeping silver eyes, he had already seen a large number of creatures entering the building with grey light. There was no time to lose. Luo Yan's figure became blurred, and his dragon-like gesture unfolded. After a few flashes, he pounced in front of Kezen. Chapter 826 Empty Camp. In the camp, figures rushed to the building in front. Several searchlights were already directed at the building, hoping to find something. At this moment, there was a sudden rumble above the building, and the outer wall exploded with a huge sound. Large and small pieces of rubble fell to the ground like raindrops. The employees of Chang Logistics screamed and dodged. Even so, many people were still hit and bleeding. What happened up there? Needless to say, the boss must have taken action. Stop talking nonsense, hurry up. Amid the shouting, the fully armed men rushed into the building, and then rushed into the fire escape. The top floor of the building. Luo Yan walked towards Jiuying, and behind him, Kezen's body was lying on the ground. The hair on the man's body was disappearing, and his fangs and claws were gradually shrinking into his body. His body was returning to normal, so the wound that almost cut his body open was particularly shocking. The shadow of the lizard dragon condensed by amber light was now lying on Kezen's body, swallowing Kezen's blood in big mouthfuls. After a moment, this thing conveyed a feeling of unsatisfied to Luo Yan, and then disappeared into the air. Luo Yan released the dragon transformation posture, picked up Jiuying, and looked at Kezen again. What is a blood descendant? Unfortunately, Kezen is dead now. He no longer has anyone to ask. And just now, he didn't have time to ask. So he had to leave the office with this question. As soon as he walked out, a team of soldiers rushed out from behind the door of the fire escape. It's him. It's the kid from before. How is the boss? Don't worry about it. Kill him first. The next second, the sound of gunfire rang in Luo Yan's ears. He didn't want to entangle with these people anymore, and his figure flashed, and he broke out of the window. The dragon elephant tore a hole in the outer wall of the building, cushioning Luo Yan's fall. When he stopped, Luo Yan was only 7 or 8 meters away from the ground. He jumped down and headed for the camp wall. The pursuers followed behind, and the bullets rubbed against the air to form red lights, flying around Luo Yan. From time to time, they hit Luo Yan, but except for making a hole in his cloak, they did not cause any damage to Luo Yan. When Luo Yan came out, he had already protected himself with a layer of golden armor, and dragon scales appeared in important positions for protection. Not to mention that the bullets from this submachine gun could not kill him. Even anti-aircraft machine guns could not break the strong defense of the dragon transformation posture. But it still hurt. Luo Yan groaned and increased his speed. When the wall was in sight, the dragon elephant chopped it, and a golden ripple tore the wall and the high voltage power grid on it. Luo Yan left calmly. When the people in the camp chased him out, there was no trace of Luo Yan in the vast wilderness. These people looked at each other, and for a moment they didn't know whether to chase or not. At this moment, someone in the camp shouted, "Oh no, Boss K is dead. Boss K is dead. Dead." On the top floor of the building, Kezen's office is now well ventilated, so Luo Yan demolished a wall, and the cold wind kept pouring in. The figures in the room felt extremely desolate. Under their feet was Kezen's body, whose death was extremely tragic. Not only did the blood stain the carpet red, but even the contents of his body came out. What should we do? Brother Lei Bio is not in the camp, and now even the boss is dead. Brother Lei probably met with an accident. Then what should we do next? Otherwise, shall we all go our separate ways? That's the only way. There's no point staying any longer. And this camp has been exposed. If that evil star comes back again, then no one has to leave. One word after another. Soon, these employees of Chang Logistics left the office one after another. After taking their own things, they parted ways outside the camp and left overnight. Wait until the next day. When the sky was slightly bright, a convoy arrived outside the gate of the camp. Mr. Jiuying, something is wrong. Someone leaned out of the car window and said to a man in his early 40s who was elegant and wore glasses like a university lecturer. The man called Jiuying and said calmly, "Let's go and see what's going on." Yes. The car door opened, and a man with a buzz cut, an earring on the left earlobe, and a red leather jacket got out of the car and entered the camp alone. Not long after, he came back and said respectfully outside the car, "Mr. Jiuying, the entire camp is empty. No one is there." The man, whose full name is Su Jiuying, looked at him. "Let's go and see what's going on." A moment later, they appeared on the top floor of the building, in Kezen's office. Su Jiuying covered his mouth and nose with a white handkerchief, and his eyes fell on Kezen's body. The man in the red jacket looked around and said, "There are few signs of fighting. It seems that the fighting process was not long. Kezen was killed by 1 or 2 people in one encounter." When he said this, even he didn't believe it. The man in the red jacket continued, "What realm must the opponent be in to be able to kill Kezen? Kezen is a blood descendant who has absorbed the holy blood and gained the power of the blood wolf. Even if he is at a high level, it would not be easy to kill him, let alone kill him in a short period of time. Could it be done by a strong man in the Tangxuan realm?" Su Jiuying shook his handkerchief, on which a su was embroidered with gold thread. He wiped his hands gently with the handkerchief and said, "What is a Tangxuan realm expert doing in a surface camp? Unfortunately, the time of death has exceeded 8 hours. Otherwise, I could use my soul search technique to see who did it." The man in the red coat looked at the secret door that was open under the desk again. "The other party should be coming for Jiuying," I said. "Such an important thing should be handed over by Kezen." He suddenly paused, as if realizing that he had said the wrong thing, and hurriedly said, "Mr. Jiuying, I. Su Jiuying put away his handkerchief and walked out of the office. "I didn't let Kezen hand in Jiuying because I was worried that someone would target him. Kezen's Chang Logistics is a smaller target and not easy to attract attention. In addition, as a blood descendant, he can definitely compete with high-level cultivators. And with his identity, he will not easily provoke a Tangxuan realm expert. So Jiuying is safer in his hands. But I didn't expect it." Su Jiuying shook his head and said, "Ahang, go and bring those 2 earth wolves here. It's been such a long time since the death. We can only rely on those 2 beasts to find the murderer." The man named Ahang nodded and turned to leave. Chapter 827 Strange Dog. Today, the weather is fine. The snow that had fallen all night finally stopped. 2 snowmobiles stopped. On the Black Blade, Jiuying looked around. A rusty blue iron plate in front of him had numbers vaguely visible. It was a bus stop sign. In the distance, a crooked building with only a steel frame left could be seen. The thick snow along the road buried nearly half of the various car wreckages. From time to time, the snow piles cracked, and some small animals would emerge from them. "Let's go there to rest." Jiuying pointed to a row of townhouses not far from the bus stop. Behind him, Song Qiutang nodded obediently. With last night's experience, she no longer doubted Jiuying's strength and wisdom. Last night, when she saw Jiuying bring Jiuying back, she looked incredulous. Next, Jiuying took her away, and the 2 drove all night, far away from the area where Chang Logistics was located. Once here, even if the people from Chang Logistics chased after them, it would take some time. And during this time, it was enough for Jiuying and his partner to rest for a while. They found a coffee shop. The outdoor chairs and tables outside the coffee shop were covered with snow, and even the door had a lot of snow and mud pouring in. However, the employee lounge at the back was relatively clean. Jiuying checked the entire room and confirmed that there were no giant parasites before calling Song Qiutang in. They came to the employee lounge, which was not big and had 2 beds. With an aisle, there was no extra space. Luo Yan handed the Jiuying to Song Qiutang. Take a look, is it still usable? Song Qiutang took it, entered a set of passwords, and then turned on the device. As soon as it was turned on, there was a crash inside, and some parts and fragments fell out. Song Qiutang was stunned. Only then did she see that there were bullet holes on the shell of Jiuying, and a bullet was found inside. It's broken. Song Qiutang raised his head and said. Luo Yan was also stunned. Judging from the signs of damage, it should have been hit by a stray bullet from the pursuers when he left last night. He frowned and said, such an important thing, don't you use bulletproof materials? Song Qiutang looked helpless. When we were researching this thing, we were on the surface. It was good enough to build this device. How could we care about what materials to use? Luo Yan sat down. Can it be repaired? Song Qiutang checked it. Yes. Fortunately, the important parts were not damaged. The computer motherboard and other important parts are intact. The problem is, I don't have any tools, let alone replacement parts. Luo Yan said, can the parts be obtained at the surface base? It should be possible. Song Qiutang thought for a while and said. Luo Yan took out his mobile phone, opened the map, and said after a while, there is a base called Keiju not far from here. Let's rest first and set off in 2 hours. Song Qiutang had no objection, and she was very sensible to return the Jiuying device to Luo Yan, indicating that she would not run away with the device. It can be seen that she is not a stupid person. On the other hand, if she was not smart enough, she would not be able to struggle until today. After all, she is just an ordinary person. Luo Yan took back the Jiuying and used it as a pillow, resting it on the device. Except that it was a little harder than a pillow. There was no other problem. At this time, Song Qiutang came over and stood in front of Luo Yan's bed. What? Luo Yan wondered. Song Qiutang rubbed the corner of his clothes and said, do you want me to accompany you? Luo Yan was stunned for a moment, then said, we are still in danger now. Don't do unnecessary things. Don't waste your energy. Oh. It's hard to tell whether it was a sigh of relief or a little regret. Song Qiutang walked to another bed and lay down with her clothes on. Luo Yan shook his head in his heart, thinking that are all older women so passionate? Yukioshu is like this, and even Song Qiutang, who is thinking about sleeping when she is on the road. Hurry up and catch the fish and send her away. He thought so and turned to sleep. When there were only 10 minutes left before 2 hours, Luo Yan suddenly woke up. The dragon blood essence in his body was ready to move, as if he felt something. He got up immediately. Song Qiutang was breathing evenly and was still in a dream. Luo Yan moved to her bedside and patted her gently. Song Qiutang woke up with a start, opened her eyes, and suddenly saw someone beside the bed. She was about to cry out, but was held down by a warm hand. Then she saw clearly that it was Luo Yan. Seeing Luo Yan moving to the bedside, Song Qiutang had a thought in her mind. Could it be that he wanted her? Well, in order to save Yangping, what if I give my body to him? I'm afraid that Yangping will probably scold me for being fickle in his grave. She raised her hand and unbuttoned a button on her collar, and her fair beauty suddenly bloomed from under her collar. Luo Yan was startled and said, what are you doing? Song Qiutang was also puzzled. Shouldn't you take off your clothes when doing that? Then she suddenly said, do you like to tear your clothes? Not here. I don't have any change of clothes. What a mess. Why would I tear your clothes for no reason? Luo Yan stood up and said, maybe someone is chasing you. Stay here and don't come out. I'll go and see. After saying that, he picked up the dragon elephant and flashed out of the lounge. Song Qiutang blushed and quickly buttoned up her clothes. Song Qiutang, you are so embarrassed. However, it is rare for a young man to be so devoted to his duties at such an age. She then touched her face and felt the ugly scars on it. Maybe he thinks I'm too ugly. Yes, I'm ugly, so it is no wonder that he is not tempted. Besides, I'm a widow. She felt complicated and self-pitying, but she still knew to pick up the submachine gun, turn on the safety, and hide in the corner with the Jiuying. At this time, two shadows rushed over in the snow about 1 kilometer away from the hiding place of Luo Yan and the others. They also stopped where Luo Yan had parked the car before. After stopping, it was clear that they were two wolf-like and dog-like creatures. They were about twice as big as ordinary wild wolves or domestic dogs, with strong physiques and short dark red hair. The strange thing is that, although they look like wolfhounds, their heads are very human. One is male and the other is female. Moreover, their limbs are very strange. The furry limbs do not end with canine claws, but with human palms and soles. The two things sniffed left and right, then raised their heads, and were about to set off. Suddenly, a figure passed between them. The two strange dogs were startled and jumped up, splitting left and right. After falling to the ground, they all looked back. They saw a man in a cloak, with a Han sword pointing to the ground, stopped in front. They were about to pounce. Suddenly, several bloodlines appeared on the bodies of the two strange dogs, and these bloodlines crisscrossed and spurted out hot blood. The two strange dogs did not even have time to bark, and they were torn into pieces along these bloodlines, turning into minced meat on the ground. But even so, they did not die immediately. Therefore, the eyes of the strange dogs reflected the appearance of Luo Yan turning around. Black hair, red eyes, and ancient Han sword. This figure was deeply imprinted in the eyes of the strange dog. Chapter 828 Casting a Net. Luo Yan walked to the two strange dogs. His expression was not very good. After he came out of the coffee shop, he used the secret method opened the ghost wheel to sneak over, and when he found the two strange dogs, he stared at them with his peeping silver eyes. He learned that the two strange dogs were called earth wolves, and they were creatures that mutated after carrying the beast blood, which was very similar to Kezen. Kezen also carried the so-called beast blood, and was able to transform into a beast, and become a beast. The same is true for these two earth wolves. Could it be that Chang Logistics is engaged in some kind of biological research? Luo Yan denied his guess the next second. No, judging from the scale of that camp, Chang Logistics does not have that kind of strength. This means that there is a behemoth behind Chang Logistics, being able to support biological research and have already produced results. Such a force is not a small role. It should not be Huangquan. So, is it another branch of the Black Witch? With these guesses, Luo Yan returned to the coffee shop, pushed the door, and entered the lounge. Then he saw Song Qiutang pointing a submachine gun at him. Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "It's not safe here, let's go." Then he walked over, picked up Jiuying, and walked out of the house. Song Qiutang hurriedly followed him. The two came outside, got in the car, and drove towards the Chrysanthemum base. About 40 minutes later, several cars arrived at the body of Land Wolf. The car door opened, and the man named Ahan came to the body of Land Wolf like lightning. He took a breath of cold air. Then he turned around and said, "Mr. Jingyuan, both Land Wolves are killed." Su Jingyuan came out of the car. Just like when he checked Kezen's body before, the man who seemed to have some misophobia took out the handkerchief embroidered with the word Su, covered his mouth and nose lightly, and came to the body. Although the Earth Wolf is not a blood descendant, it is also a creature created by the Holy Lord himself. Even high-level cultivators have to be careful when encountering them. I didn't expect him to die like this. Fortunately, the death time did not exceed 8 hours. It seems that the Earth Wolf should be able to find something. As he spoke, Su Jingyuan squatted beside the corpse. He put away his handkerchief and formed a seal with his hands. He then grabbed the head of an Earth Wolf. It seemed that he caught something in his hand, and that thing was resisting and struggling violently, causing Su Jingyuan's hand to tremble. Su Jingyuan did not spread his hands, but slapped his mouth directly. He immediately rolled his eyes and then said, "Give me paper and pen, quickly." Ahan was prepared. Upon hearing this, she handed the paper and pen to Su Jingyuan. At this time, Su Jingyuan's eyes were only white. He looked up at the sky, but took the pen handed by Ahang and quickly drew something on the paper. After a moment, Ahang saw that there was a person wearing a cloak on the white paper. His black hair was a little messy, his black and white eyes were filled with murderous intent, and he held an ancient 8-sided Han sword in his hand, which even had small words on it. At this time, Su Jingyuan threw away the paper and pen, ran to the side of the road, and retched. Ahang quickly put away the things and smiled bitterly. Mr. Su's soul-searching technique can sense what the deceased saw before his death. but this technique requires swallowing the remaining essence before death into the stomach. For a clean person like Mr. Su, it's really hard for him. Over there, Su Jingyuan took a breath, stood up, and wiped his mouth with a handkerchief. His subordinates brought clean water to rinse his mouth. After clearing the dirt from his mouth, he said, "That man is quite young, with red eyes. He should be suffering from the red poison." The most obvious sign is his hand sword, which has the 8 characters, dragon and elephant posture, fish and birds are frightened, on it. Notify all our partners, wilderness hunters, and our own people immediately. Especially the blood descendants ranked within the top 10. Let them all go out and find this person. Capture him alive or kill him. Just one thing. Make sure to take back the Jiuying device he took away. Aha nodded, took out her mobile phone and operated it. Soon, the radio wave transmitted Su Jingyuan's order. Asterisk 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 it was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon when they arrived at the Keiju base. The scale of this surface base is smaller than that of the crested ibis base, but its gate is open. Perhaps because the wind and snow stopped, the Keiju base did not make a gesture to reject outsiders. Luo Yan and the others paid the tax and entered the base, parking the two snowmobiles in the designated location according to regulations. They pulled up their hoods and walked on the main road of the base. Luo Yan took a look at Song Qiutang and decided to get her a mask to wear. Otherwise, with the iconic red spots on her face, it would only take a matter of time for her to be discovered by Chang Logistics or the forces behind it. Luo Yan felt that he was quite experienced in wearing masks to conceal his identity. After entering the base, you can see some road signs. Among them, there is also a floor plan of the base. The floor plan clearly marks the functions of each area in the Keiju base, and which areas are not allowed to be entered by outsiders. Those restricted areas are naturally military strongholds, such as mecha parking warehouses. Luo Yan studied a floor plan for a minute, and took Song Qiutang to street number 3, which is specially used to entertain outsiders. Once you walk into the street, you will find that none of the people coming and going here are good people. Even if they look kind, their eyes will flash with a sharp light like a blade. Luo Yan did not take Song Qiutang to stroll on the street. They found a small hotel to stay. In order to facilitate care, Luo Yan did not avoid suspicion, and the two lived in the same room. The hotel naturally would not ask about this situation. After settling Song Qiutang, Luo Yan asked her to stay in the hotel to look after Jiuying, and he took the list made by Song Qiutang and went outside to search for the tools and parts that Song Qiutang needed. After leaving the hotel, Luo Yan took a look. Street number 3, which is dedicated to entertaining outsiders, has a complex composition of people. Gold diggers, adventurers, wilderness hunters, armed groups, etc. You can meet them here. In addition, there are various shops on the street, as well as bars, base mission release offices, etc. Women who do flesh trade are everywhere. They stand at the door of the bar, or in a remote alley. They either actively solicit customers or passively wait for patrons to come. It was already late, and the lights on street number 3 were shining. Under those bright and colorful lights, there were hidden shadows and corruption, thus forming a unique atmosphere on the surface. In this era, where you don't know which will come first, tomorrow or accidents, living a life of drunkenness and dreams may also be a good attitude to life. Luo Yan stopped at this time. In front of him was a grocery store that sold a variety of things, including a large number of electronic parts. Luo Yan walked in. Chapter 829 Assembly. When Luo Yan came out of the grocery store, he had already bought the tools that Song Qiutang wanted. There were also parts on Song Qiutang's list, but Luo Yan didn't buy them. He was worried that, if he bought too much in a concentrated manner, people would infer his identity from this point and then come to his door. Therefore, he planned to buy in batches and in multiple stores. If it weren't for Wei Fenghua, Luo Yan even wanted to buy in 2 bases. This way the chance of being exposed would be lower. But Wei Fenghua didn't have much time, and now every day was less. Luo Yan naturally wanted to find the Hades fish as soon as possible, so he didn't plan to waste so much time. As for the force behind Chang Logistics, if it is possible to avoid a direct conflict, then don't confront it head on. But if the other party also wants to grab the Hades fish, then it depends on their own ability. In this way, Luo Yan walked around several streets and bought everything that Song Qiutang wanted. So he started to return to the small hotel. On the way, he quietly opened the Shenzang, the two earth wolves, before aroused his vigilance. God knows whether this base hides Chang logistics or people related to it. Even though Luo Yan was not afraid of armed conflict, he would avoid such things if possible. Who would fight all day long if they had nothing to do? As he walked, Luo Yan casually read the thoughts of passers-by and peeked into their minds to prevent being targeted by relevant people. On the way, he also bought 2 masks. There was no decoration, very ordinary, just used to cover the face. Masks like this can be seen on the streets from time to time by gold diggers or wilderness hunters. Luo Yan was not the only one who didn't want to reveal his true identity. The girls in Yingqianla are really cool. Let's go there again tonight. Tonight, I want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Damn it, Dongfeng, you dare to plot against me. Wait for me, I will definitely kill you if I have the chance. I can go home after finishing this order. I wonder if Xiaoi will be happy to see me back. Where's my money? Which bastard stole my wallet? The passers-by coming and going had various thoughts, most of which were of no reference value. But just when Luo Yan saw the small hotel, one of the 2 masters who came towards him suddenly said something suspicious. Kezen from Chang Logistics was killed. No wonder they are looking for the murderer now. Luo Yan passed by them calmly, then found a blind spot and turned around, followed the crowd, and stared at the man in front. The information of the smiling masked man immediately appeared in Luo Yan's eyes. Zhao Zhengli, 26 years old, elite of Balian gang. Realm, intermediate level 2. Peeping into the inner voice. I don't know who the boss behind Chang Logistics is. It even alarmed the big boss of Fenshu area, Xianfu Group. Xianfu Group has now summoned the most important people in the base. It seems that they want to participate in this action. Luo Yan lowered his head calmly, with a flash of surprise in his eyes. Sure enough, there is a bigger force behind Chang Logistics. Moreover, the other party has mobilized its own channels and influence to plunder him. Even in this chrysanthemum picking base, there are actions against him. Luo Yan immediately decided to follow them to see what the so-called Xianfu Group is going to do. The 2 people in front of him came to a tea house with a strong folk style. There were festive red lanterns hanging at the entrance of the tea house. Walking in, a bamboo hat and a raincoat were hung on the lime wall that served as a screen. There was a fish basket and a fishing rod at the base of the wall. Going around the screen, there was the lobby on the 1st floor. The taller and thinner of the 2 people was going to the stairs on the 2nd floor. The man with the smiley mask said, I'll be back after I go to the bathroom. The taller and thin man said, hurry up, the Xianguan of the Xianfu Group has arrived, and he doesn't like people to be late. I know, we are not from their group, so we are not afraid of him. With that, Zhao Zhengli turned towards the direction of the bathroom. Luo Yan followed him. A moment later, when Luo Yan reappeared, he was wearing a smiling mask on his face and Zhao Zhengli's cloak. He walked up the wooden stairs to the 2nd floor, passed through the corridor, and came to a hall. There was a table at the entrance of the hall. People who came needed to sign in on the book at the door. 2 beautiful women with peach blossoms smiled to welcome the guests from all directions. Luo Yan wrote the 3 words Zhao Zhengli on the sign-in book, and entered the hall. In the hall, there was a stage in front of the stage, and an old actor was already singing on it. He sang the opera in this area. Luo Yan didn't know where he should sit, so he just went wherever there was an empty seat. He was about to walk to an 8 immortal table in front of the stage, but was stopped by someone. Looking back, it was Zhao Zhengli's companion. The tall and thin guy wore a mountain ghost mask and said, you are crazy. Is that where we can sit? Our seats are over there. The mountain ghost pointed to an inconspicuous corner of the hall. Luo Yan nodded and went to their seats with this person. There were already 5 or 6 people sitting at this round table. There were beautiful women, ruddy old men, and even 2 twin children. But a closer look revealed that the 2 children had wrinkled faces. They were not children at all, but dwarfs. You, the Balian gang, are here to join in the fun. Luo Yan and Shan Gillian just sat down when they heard the red-faced old man say, smiling Zhao, the mountain ghost king. Why, your boss won't come out in person. Just the two of you, not enough. The red-faced old man shook his head. Across from him, the pretty and charming woman said with a smile, "Hey, Master Chang, look at what you said. The two elder brothers Zhao Wang are also extraordinary. It's just catching a little thief. Do they really need their leaders to come out?" The old man surnamed Chang sneered. "Miss Lin Fei, you probably don't know that Kazan was killed. I heard that you danced for Kazan. Kazan can watch you dance without dying. You should know his ability. If such a person is dead, what do you think the two of them can do?" The woman named Lin Fei took the pot and poured water and passed it to Luo Yan and the tall and thin man surnamed Wang. "No matter how bad they are not better than Master Chang's magic tricks." The old man Chang snorted and said, "Do you look down on me? How about using your demon dance to compete with my ghost taper play?" When the two gradually became hostile, the pair of dwarfs who looked like children shouted, "Stop arguing. Here comes the Xianguan from Xianfu group. If you want to fight, fight to your heart's content after the meeting. Stop it now, but don't implicate us." After the dwarfs said this, the old man surnamed Chang and Lin Fei finally stopped. Luo Yan looked at the 8 immortal table under the stage. There was only one group of people walking towards the 8 immortal table, and the one walking in front was a woman in her 30s. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 830 Shenghu Group. Oh, it's Ruan Xiu who's here this time. Not surprisingly, although Ruan Xiu is the weakest among the 3 heavenly officials of Xianfu Group, she is good at networking and can be said to be a diplomat of Xianfu Group. This time, Xianfu Group has summoned the entire Keiju base's partners and the wilderness hunters who have a grudge against them. Naturally, it would be better for Ruan Xiu to come forward. Near Luo Yan, the guests were whispering. Luo Yan listened in his ears and said nothing. At this time, the woman named Ruan Xiu walked onto the stage. The old actor who was singing the opera bowed slightly and went backstage. So there was only Ruan Xiu on the stage. Someone immediately started to make a noise. "Miss Ruan Xiu, you have to sing for us?" Immediately, those who followed Ruan Xiu out snorted coldly and looked at the person who made the noise. The person who made the noise was a man in his 40s, unkempt, holding a bottle of wine in his hand, with a slightly drunk look in his eyes and a red face, and he seemed to be drunk. He didn't mind the cold snorts, and continued to smile, as if a dead pig was not afraid of boiling water. "TSK, I didn't expect this drunkard to come too." At Luo Yan's table, the old man surnamed Chang then took out a pipe and started smoking. Lin Fei said with a smile, "What's so strange about this? The drunkard Guayao has been pursuing Ruan Xiu for a long time. He is wherever Ruan Xiu is. I heard that this guy even sneaked into the Xianguan group and was almost beaten to death. He is also a wonderful person." Old man Chang sneered. "Funny as hell. He wants to pursue her. He just wants Miss Ruan's body." Lin Fei chuckled. "If a man doesn't want a woman's body, can he still be called a man? Don't you think so, Brother Zhao?" She looked at Luo Yan. Luo Yan frowned and felt Lin Fei's feet rubbing against him under the table. He thought to himself, is it possible that Zhao and Lin Fei are having an affair? Luo Yan was in a dilemma. Due to the sudden decision and the tight time, he could not force Zhao Zhengli to ask about his life and hobbies. Now naturally, no one knew the relationship between the woman, surnamed Lin, and Zhao Zhengli. Fortunately, at this time, Ruan Xiu on the stage spoke. Everyone's attention was immediately attracted, and concubine Lin also put her legs down. Then he heard Ruan Xiu on the stage smiled generously. "Mr. K was joking. Ruan Xiu doesn't understand opera, so I won't show off." Guayao smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. I like to listen to you, even if you drink badly." The people next to him couldn't help it. "But shut up, Mr. K. Drink your wine. Don't harass Miss Ruan here." Guayao was not annoyed by being scolded. He drank the wine with a smile, and then fell asleep on the table. On the stage, Ruan Xiu chuckled and bowed to the surroundings generously. Thank you all for coming here despite your busy schedule. Cheyenne Fu Group will definitely not treat you unfairly. Someone asked below. Miss Ruin XIU. Cheyenne Fu is so anxious to call us together. Is there something? Ruin XIU nodded. Cheyenne Fu Group wants to use your hands to track down someone. As she spoke, a curtain fell from the stage, and a projector projected an image onto it. A sloppy portrait immediately appeared on the curtain. But it can be seen that it is a black-haired man wearing a cloak. He is very young, with cold facial lines and murderous eyes. He is holding an 8-sided hand sword in his hand, and there are some small and difficult to recognize words on the sword. However, next to the image, there are 8 neat Chinese characters. The posture of a dragon and an elephant. Fish and birds are startled. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly, and he naturally recognized that it was himself. But who painted this picture? Although it was sloppy, it was full of charm. Especially the small words on the dragon and elephant. The other party actually knew it? Miss Ruin XIU. Is this the person Cheyenne Fu is tracking? Under the stage, an old woman in flowered clothes raised her hand and asked. Ruin XIU smiled and said, yes. At present, we don't know his name. We only know his general appearance. In addition, this person may be infected with red poison, so his eyes should be red. His weapon is a hand sword with 8 small characters on it, which are the ones next to it. This person killed Kezen, the boss of Chang Logistics last night. Everyone present should know who Kezen is. Yes, he is from Shenghu Group. Therefore, Mr. Su Jingyuan personally issued a warrant for the murderer. Shenghu Group. Su Jingyuan? Luo Yan secretly made a note of it, thinking that this trip was not in vain. There are indeed other forces behind Chang Logistics, and it seems that it should be the so-called Shenghu Group. Even if Su Jingyuan is not the head of this group, he is also a very important figure, otherwise he would not have such a great influence. It's just that one thing is very strange. Luo Yan asked himself that he had left no traces, so how did Su Jingyuan know his appearance? At this time, the 2 dwarfs at his table spoke up. This Su was still an unknown figure before this year. Unexpectedly, he got on the thigh of Shenghu Group and rose to prominence from then on, becoming a big man who can command the entire Fenshu area. The origin of the Shenghu Group is also very strange. It suddenly appeared in the past 6 months, and it rose rapidly by constantly annexing companies or camps like Chang Logistics on the surface. Even the Cheyenne Fu Group can only bow down to them. Hearing their discussion, Lin Fei lowered her voice and said, the reason why Shenghu Group has such great capabilities is because they have a group of masters called Blood Descendants. They ranked and numbered these Blood Descendants. The top 10 Blood Descendants have terrifying combat power. Even the Xianguan of Cheyenne Fu Group is not their opponent. Kezen is also a Blood Descendant, but he is far behind and can't even be ranked in the top 10. Even so, Chang Logistics still became the overlord of a region, which shows how terrifying Shenghu Group is. Old Man Chang laughed unpleasantly and said, Miss Lin knows a lot. I don't know, have you heard that at the beginning? Shenghu Group actually used the word Sheng instead of blossoming, but sacred. Later, at the suggestion of Su Jingyuan, the name was changed. Next to Luo Yan, the man named Wang wearing a mountain ghost mask said, oh, why is that? Old Man Chang blew out a smoke ring and said, it is said that this group can rise so fast, and those Blood Descendants have such terrifying combat power, because there is a holy master in Shenghu Group. That holy master gave his blood to the Blood Descendants to eat, so that Kezen, who was originally just a general master, could become a threat to the high-level realm. The table suddenly heard a gasp. At this moment, a man of medium build ran in at the entrance of the hall. He had a bloody head and black eyes. He shouted as soon as he entered the door. I'm Zhao Zengli from the Balian gang. I was ambushed. Chapter 831 Escape. The hall fell silent. Others did not feel much about Zhao Zengli being attacked. But Old Man Chang, the man with the mountain ghost mask, Lin Fei and the 2 dwarfs who were sitting next to Luo Yan suddenly looked at Luo Yan. After all, he was wearing Zhao Zengli's smiling mask. The next second, they saw that Luo Yan's cloak was covered with a golden long gown with wide sleeves. There was a sun pattern on the back of the long gown. Scorching sun clothes. As soon as this gown appeared, the temperature around it soared immediately. Luo Yan stretched out his hand and pressed on the table. This fairly solid Nanmu table suddenly broke into pieces, along with the teacups, porcelain bowls and other items on the table, which collapsed into thousands of pieces. Carrying the high temperature and energy of the scorching sun sutra, it flew towards the people around like locusts and raindrops. Old Man Chang, the man with the mountain ghost mask, Lin Fei, the dwarf brothers. One by one, they all snorted and exclaimed in anger. Old Man Chang took off his colorful cloak with many patches on it like a magic trick, and with a strong effort, he put the many fragments shot at him into the cloak. He shook the cloak again, and the fragments appeared from an unmanned corner not far away, and fell to the ground with a clatter. No one knew how he did it. The man with the mountain ghost mask hurriedly drew his knife, and the knife light slashed out from his cloak. His knife skills were simple and concise. He slashed out one by one, and chopped the many fragments that attacked him. Lin Fei was like dancing, twisting her thin waist, that could not be grasped, and she actually found a gap among the many fragments. She was unharmed, but her dress was cut by the fragments, revealing her fair skin. The dwarf brothers, one of them spewed out a breath of black smoke and flames, and the other put his hands together to push out a python condensed by golden and red flames, which also blocked and burned the many fragments that attacked. However, although these people blocked this wave of attacks, they could not spare their hands to deal with Luo Yan. After Luo Yan smashed the table, he didn't want to fight anymore, and rushed to the window. When he saw the window, he was about to jump out. There was a sound of wind behind him. A fat man rolled over like a meatball, seemingly to crush Luo Yan to death. Luo Yan waited. Then he turned around. The Yanri clothes suddenly caught fire. Boom. The golden flames surged. Luo Yan punched out. It hit the fat man who rolled over. When he punched, the man sneered in his heart. The martial arts practiced by this man has the effect of strengthening the body, plus he has a fat body. In the wilderness, even wild beasts or giant parasites can't bite his oily skin. What's more, Luo Yan used his fists. How could he break his defense? So he didn't dodge. But when Luo Yan's fist touched his body, the big man felt something was wrong. A hot and fierce breath penetrated his body. His fat and thick skin couldn't block it at all. After the violent aura entered his body, it destroyed all the bones in his body. He was still spinning, but he heard the sound of bones breaking continuously in his body, and his soul flew away immediately. Bang! Outsiders only heard a loud noise, and then saw Luo Yan was knocked out like a kite with a broken string, and they all shouted good. But when the meatball man stopped, he had turned into a shapeless meat paste, as if there was no bone support in his body. It made everyone stunned again. When the old man surnamed Chang and the others rushed out, Luo Yan, who was flying backwards towards the window, suddenly turned around, and his body was flexibly thrown out of the window, and landed on the street outside the tea house. He didn't look injured at all. When Ruin Xiu rushed to the big man, he reached out and gently touched the big man's arm, and said, "All his bones are broken. This is the fighting skill bone crushing." Old Man Chang's face was solemn. Bone crushing is just a basic fighting skill. Anyone who knows a little about boxing can easily practice it. But it is very rare to use bone crushing to this extent. Lin Fei looked at the clothes she just bought and turned into beggar clothes. She was in a bad mood and glared at the man in the mountain ghost mask. Wang Changxiang, you didn't even know that Zhao Zhengli was replaced. Aren't you his partner? Are you not also a fake? The dwarf brothers followed suit. Yes, take off your mask quickly, so we can see. At this time, Zhao Zhengli came over. He is the real Wang Changxiang, and his swordsmanship is the evidence. Old Wang had a disfigured face in his early years, so don't embarrass him. Since Zhao Zhengli had guaranteed it, the others did not make it difficult. At this time, guests had already poured down the tea house to track down the fake Zhao Zhengli. Ruin Xiu frowned slightly. This person has a strong and powerful aura. The object that his Yuan showed just now is probably the Yanri. In this case, he is a master who practices the Yan'ang Sutra. In addition, he acts decisively and ruthlessly. It is obvious that he is not a rookie who has just debuted, but an expert who has walked in the wilderness for many years. Why did this person pretend to be Zhao Zhengli and sneak into a gathering? It is very suspicious. The woman stood up and said to a middle-aged man behind her, "Uncle Dao, you should let our people seal off the base immediately." In addition, you should go to the base command building in person to explain the situation and avoid misunderstandings. The man named Uncle Deo nodded and turned away. Speaking of Luo Yan, he fell on the street and immediately flashed into an alley. Once he entered the alley, he immediately shattered his cloak and mask and put away his Yuanlian skills. When he came out of the alley again, he put on a purchased mask on his face and then walked slowly among the passers-by. After a while, several people chased out of the alley, but they looked at the pedestrians around them with helpless expressions. He smashed his mask and cloak to pieces. He should have changed his appearance now. There is no need to chase him. We can't catch up. Among the people chasing him, there was also the old man Chang. He knocked some ashes off the corner of the wall with his pipe, stuffed some tobacco leaves into it, snapped his fingers, and flames came out of his fingertips. After lighting the tobacco leaves, the old man Chang took a puff of smoke and retreated back to the alley. Seeing this, the others also turned around. Luo Yan returned to the small hotel safely. As soon as he arrived at the room, he handed the purchased tools and parts to Song Qiutang. Take a look. Are these things applicable? Song Qiutang checked and nodded. No problem. Luo Yan picked up the teapot, poured himself a glass of water and said, that's good. Fix Jiuying as soon as possible. Also, we will leave tomorrow morning. He then told Song Qiutang that he had mixed into the rally and that he had asked Xianfu Group and Shenghu Group to join forces to hunt him down. The two of them were now on the same boat, so naturally Song Qiutang had to be mentally prepared. Song Qiutang was surprised and said, if that's the case, why don't we leave immediately? Luo Yan took a sip of tea. It's very simple. If I were an XIU, I would definitely use the group's influence to block the base, and anyone who wanted to leave would be carefully investigated. Song Qiutang frowned. Then can we leave tomorrow? Yes. Luo Yan put down the teacup. Even if the base gives Xianfu Group a face and does not interfere in this matter. But if tomorrow, Ruin XIU still wants to block the base will be the first to disagree. Therefore, the blockade can only last for one night at most. Chapter 832 Demonic Monk. It was already early morning. Ruin XIU looked at the window and said, haven't you found the person yet? Behind her, the middle-aged man called Uncle Deo said respectfully, not yet, Miss Ruin. Ruin XIU smiled and said, we have really met an opponent this time. Obviously, the man is still hiding in the base. He calculated that our blockade can only last for one night. If it lasts longer, the base will not agree. Uncle Deo thought for a while and said, Miss Ruin, how about we give the base some benefits? Ruin XIU shook her head and said, no need. One night blockade is one night. But don't forget that the man killed someone in the tea house yesterday. If someone died, the base can't just sit there and watch, right? Uncle Deo suddenly understood. I understand. I'll go and notify the base now. Ruin XIU waved her hand. No need. I sent someone to the base's law enforcement team a long time ago. If the base doesn't do anything tomorrow, we can just put a little more pressure on it. Uncle Deo nodded. Okay. Go down and rest first. There will be no results tonight. After Ruin XIU said this, she also went back to her room. One night passed like this. The next morning, Luo Yang bought breakfast downstairs and found out some news. Last night, several conflicts occurred because Xianfu Group blocked the base. Now everyone is discussing what Xianfu Group is suddenly doing. In addition, some people have left the base during the day today, so it seems that the blockade of the base has been lifted. Back in the room, Luo Yan saw Song Qiutang still fiddling with Jiuying. The bullet holes on the device are still there, but the parts inside have been replaced. Song Qiutang is trying to turn it on, and everything goes well. The screen lit up, showing the surrounding ground environment, and from time to time a circle of ripples spread out, as if searching for something. Song Qiutang wiped his sweat. It's fixed. Everything is normal. Thanks to the strategic office for starting many satellites this year. Otherwise, Jiuying would not work properly. Luo Yan walked over and said, what is its search range? Then he handed the breakfast to Song Qiutang. Song Qiutang took it, took a bite of the bun and said, about 3 kilometers in diameter. Luo Yan frowned, then the range is limited. Song Kyo-tang nodded. There is no way. The materials on the surface are limited, and it is already a stretch to be able to make this thing. If we want to expand the search range, we have to go back to the underground city to find professional materials. Luo Yan looked out the window and said, in this case, don't we have to carry Jiuying around to try our luck? Song Kyo-tang held the bun and said, maybe we can try Wushu village. At that time, we found that the Mingai was hiding in the river near the village. Her face suddenly darkened. It was in that village that we encountered the giant beast and got separated from the team. Of course, the Mingai may have left, but that's at least a clue, isn't it? Luo Yan nodded, took out his mobile phone, turned on the navigation, found the location of Wushu village and marked it. After breakfast, we'll go. He took out a mask, put it on. We'll go our separate ways and meet in the parking lot later. Song Kyo-tang put away his sadness, ate the buns in a few bites, and then put the mask on his face. After the two left the hotel, they separated, like two strangers who didn't know each other. Luo Yan pulled up his hood, covered his face with the mask, and walked low-key on the street. Early in the morning, there were not many people on the road, and now it was snowing again. In this kind of weather, who would want to go out unless absolutely necessary? When he walked out of the street and turned towards the parking lot of the base, Luo Yan heard a sound of iron rings shaking and colliding. He looked up calmly and saw a figure coming against the flow on the street in the distance. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly. The man was actually a monk. After the natural disaster, religious figures such as monks and Taoists have become quite rare. Even when Zhao was not a serious Taoist priest, he just made himself look like a Taoist priest to facilitate fraud. But the man in front of him had the appearance of a monk. The monk's robe was tattered, patched and full of patches. His brown skin was rough from being worn by wind and sand, and a few scars could be seen on his bald head. The monk had a kind face, especially his ears, which were large and drooping, almost touching his shoulders. He was holding a staff, and as he walked, the copper rings on the staff kept making clinking sounds. Luo Yan walked forward slowly. Soon, he was about to collide with the monk. Luo Yan took the initiative to avoid him, but unexpectedly, he just changed direction. The monk also changed direction and blocked his way. Luo Yan's eyes gradually became sharper, and he raised his head silently and looked at the monk in front of him. The monk chanted a Buddhist name and said, Donor, I see that you are full of blood and murderous intent. You must be a person with blood on your hands. Donor, you are entangled with evil spirits. You will be entangled by your enemies and creditors in every life. If this continues, you may fall into the devil's way. At that time, I'm afraid you will never be able to recover. Since we meet, it is fate. I'm not talented, but I'm willing to save you with my compassion. What do you think, Donor? Luo Yan stared at the monk and uttered a word from his mouth. Get lost. The monk was not annoyed and said with a smile, okay. He really made way. Luo Yan stopped pestering him and walked past the monk. He walked a few steps and found that the monk followed him. Luo Yan walked faster and the monk quickened his pace. He slowed down and the monk did the same. Walking out of the main street, there was a parking lot not far ahead. The area was wide and only a few people passed by from time to time. As he walked, Luo Yan stopped. He turned around. The monk was on the snow 10 steps away from him. Seeing Luo Yan stop, he walked forward with a look of joy. Have you changed your mind? Are you willing to let me convert you? Luo Yan's hand in his cloak was already on the hilt of the dragon elephant, and he deliberately said, I wonder how you want to convert a stubborn person like me. Not difficult, not difficult. The monk smiled and said, first, let me personally end your life, and then cook and eat your body, and then I can use my mouth to convert you from all your evil deeds. Luo Yan was stunned, and he doubted his ears. This monk looked like a great monk, but he said such cruel and inhumane words. Kill first and then eat. What kind of great monk is this? Kind face and evil heart. This is definitely a demon monk. Luo Yan then remembered that the Buddhist name the monk just chanted was not Amitabha, but a title he had never heard of before. Kali Buddha. Chapter 833. If Buddha doesn't save you, I will. As for which Buddha Kali Buddha was, whether it was an evil Buddha or a true Buddha, Luo Yan was not sure. At this time, he said calmly, "Master, are you serious?" The monk said seriously, "Monks do not tell lies." Luo Yan asked again, "I haven't asked you for your Dharma name yet." "I'm Dukang." The monk said the Buddha's name again. This time Luo Yan heard it clearly, and it was indeed Kali Buddha. Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "There are so many people on the street. Why did the master want to save me?" Dukang smiled and said, "Because I have a fate with you. You may not know that I met you in the tea house yesterday. You made a scene in the tea house, killed one person, and left. I decided to save you at that time, to prevent you from committing murder again. But you are smart. I went around the entire base last night, and didn't see you again. Unexpectedly, I met you again today. Isn't this fate?" Luo Yan frowned when he heard this. There were many people who participated in the Fu group's gathering in the tea house yesterday, and there were many weirdos among them. He didn't notice the monk Dukang. "Master, why don't I understand what you are talking about?" Luo Yan pretended to be confused, wanting to see where he was exposed and was targeted by this monk. After knowing it, he can correct it in the future. Dukang said solemnly. "Although the donor's face is covered with a mask, his clothes are different today and yesterday. But I don't know, that clothes can be changed, and the face can be changed. But the temperament and eyes can't be changed. Yesterday in the tea house, the donor was majestic and his eyes were full of murderous intent. He broke the round table with his palm, and killed the strong man with his fist. That temperament and eyes, I can't forget them, even if I want to. So today, as long as I see the donor's eyes, I will be sure that the donor is the one who pretended to be Zhao Zhengli in the tea house yesterday. Donor, do you understand now?" Luo Yan nodded. "I understand." Then he stopped talking nonsense. The dragon elephant flashed out from the cloak. The scorching sun clothes with flying flames fell on his body. The explosion of the secret method KO and wheel allowed Luo Yan to use a Yanai Poem to outline a golden moon, crushing the demon monk from the front. Dukang seemed to have expected Luo Yan to do this, so he was not surprised. The monk held his staff and clasped his hands together. The body was emitting thousands of auspicious colors, which were truly Buddha's light, and condensed into a golden arhat several feet tall. The arhat's phantom had a fleshy bun on his head and a solemn face, but sharp teeth were exposed between his lips, which was quite strange. The golden moon hit the phantom, and with a bang, Luo Yan's sword was in disarray, but the strange arhat image also disappeared. The two of them attacked and defended, but it seemed that they were evenly matched. Luo Yan was a little surprised, although he did not use his full strength. But now, the fourth level of Yan Yang Sutra plus the secret method of Ku and Wheel, using the powerful combat skills of Yan Yu Po Yun, full moon style. There are not many people on the surface who can block his sword from the front. It can be seen that this demon monk is indeed talented and learned. No wonder he saw me in the tea house yesterday and dared to come to my door alone today. Exclamations were heard everywhere. There are not many pedestrians here, but there are still a few after all. Seeing the golden moon and the arhat's phantom collide, it is inevitable to be surprised. Luo Yan glanced at the pedestrians nearby and decided to make a quick decision. Over there, Dukang had already rushed over. He took the lead. Holding the staff in his hand, he waved it like a demon slaying Vajra and smashed it down on Luo Yan's head, trying to beat him to death. At this moment, Dukang no longer had the kind face he had before. His expression was ferocious, his eyes were full of bloodshot, and his saliva was overflowing, like a hungry dog pouncing on meat and bones. The devil's heart was revealed. The staff fell. One hand caught it. Luo Yan caught the staff with one hand, and a few blue-gray dragon scales appeared on the back of his hand. With 5 fingers exerting force, 2 fingerprints were pressed on the head of the staff. "Master, your murderous intention is no less than mine. Why don't you save yourself before saving others?" Luo Yan asked lightly. Dukang smiled and said, "The Buddha I believe in can't save me." "Really?" Luo Yan's murderous aura burst out. Dukang's pupils slightly dilated. At this moment, in his perception, Luo Yan seemed to have turned into a ferocious beast. The murderous aura was real. It made his hair stand on end. "Blood descendant. You are a blood descendant," Dukang shouted, with a crazy smile on his face. "I haven't eaten a blood descendant yet." He actually opened his mouth to bite. What greeted him was the sword body of the dragon elephant. In an instant, Dukong's eyes changed, and he stepped back in a flash. Instinct told him that, if he really bit down, he would die miserably. Then he saw Luo Yan drowned in a black tide. Then, the red-eyed young man broke through the tide, the 8-sided Han sword in his hand, stabbed at random without any pattern. Dukong shouted and flew back with all his strength. He just wanted to stay away from the sword, farther and farther. But as soon as he moved, Luo Yan's face enlarged in his eyes. It was so big that Dukong could see every tiny line on the other's mask. Can't get rid of it. With this thought flashing through his mind, Dukong roared, and black hair gushed out behind him. No longer the auspicious Buddha light that had been auspicious for thousands of years. At this moment, the breath he spewed out was so dark, deep, evil, and filthy. Then this breath condensed into a Buddha mother. 3 faces and 6 arms, each holding a different magic weapon, had nothing to do with the word solemn. Instead, it made people feel evil. This black Buddha mother, with 6 arms moving at the same time, took turns looking at Luo Yan from 3 sides. At the same time, the dragon elephant had already penetrated deep into Dukong's body. If Buddha doesn't save you, I will. Luo Yan looked at Dukong and said softly. Then he raised it upwards. The sword broke through the monk's left shoulder, bringing up a piece of blood. But the 6 arms of the Buddha mother and many magic weapons also hit Luo Yan. The scorching sun clothes on Luo Yan's body broke immediately, followed by the golden armor clothes that had been secretly put on before the action. Finally, Luo Yan groaned, and 2 lines of blood flowed from his nostrils. But compared to Dukong, his injury was simply not light. But Luo Yan felt uncomfortable. It was like someone splashed a bucket of dirty water, not much damage, but full of nausea. When Dukong's staff fell to the ground, the black shadow of the Buddha behind him disappeared. He took a few steps back and glanced at his shoulder. He opened his mouth to say something, but his body suddenly collapsed. Even on the surface, he was considered a rare master. But if he was hit by the 1 kill every 10 steps, he would also die without a burial place. Luo Yan put away his sword and stepped back. Amid the exclamations of passers-by, he quickly took back the Jiuying thrown on the road and flew to the parking lot. A moment later, he saw Song Qiutang. The two started the snowmobile and quickly left the chrysanthemum picking base. After they left, Ruin Xiu, who came after hearing the news, saw Dukong turned into pieces with only his head intact and couldn't help but gasp. The demon monk Dukong has been stuck at the 5th level of the advanced realm since a year ago because he lacks a suitable Tangsuan realm technique. Even so, there are only a handful of people on the surface who can kill him. Not to mention in such a tragic way. Ruin Xiu looked around again. The opponent's killing move only targeted Dukong and did not affect nearby pedestrians, nor did it damage the environment. As far as I know, the only skills that can do this are the unique skill 1 kill every 10 steps and several other unique skills that are known for their killing power and are specifically used to kill people. The person who killed Dukong possessed a unique skill. Chapter 834, Planning and Strategizing. Possessing a unique skill. There was a gasp all around. For those who live on the surface, it is difficult to find high-level skills, and it is even more difficult to practice a unique skill. That was why Chen Guangli offered a unique skill as a reward that day, so that Jiuying He and others were willing to be hired. After all, for the cultivators on the surface, there is really no way and channel to get in touch with these things. In addition, for different reasons, they are unwilling to join the underground city and are unwilling to be used by the underground city. As a result, the cultivators on the surface are generally weaker than the cultivators in the underground city. At the same level, their combat power is more than 1 level weaker than that of the cultivators in the underground city. Now, hearing that the person who killed the demon monk Dukong actually possessed a unique skill, naturally shocked. What's more, it was a unique skill that could cut Dukong into pieces. The killing power was so terrifying that many people backed out. Although the conditions offered by Xianfu Group were tempting, no matter how tempting it was, you had to be alive to enjoy it. Ruin Xiu was sensitive to everyone's psychology and smiled and said, "Don't panic. This kind of terrifying killing power consumes a lot of energy. and as far as I know, 1 kill per 10 steps only targets a single target, so there are many ways to target it. Besides, we don't need to confront the target head on. Hearing her say this, the people around him breathed a sigh of relief. Old man Jiuying, who was wearing a colorful cloak, said, Miss Ruan Xiu, do you think the person who killed Monk Dukang is someone that Shenghu group wants? This is very likely. Ruan Xiu stood up and said, I have asked someone to ask the base for the surveillance records nearby. After reading the records, I believe there will be results. As soon as she finished speaking, someone came in and handed Ruan Xiu a tablet. Miss Ruan, this is the record provided by the base. Ruan Xiu clicked to play, and Old Man Chang and others had already surrounded her. The drunkard Guiyuan waved his hand, as if to drive away a fly. Go away. Keep your distance. Don't get too close to my Zia. Everyone sneered. At this time, the video began to play. From the video, we can see that Dukang is fighting with a masked man. The opponent is wearing a golden ancient costume on his cloak, and there is a sun pattern on the back of the long sleeves. He holds an 8-sided Han sword in his hand and fights Dukang head on. It only took a few breaths for the two to finish the fight. But the battle was very tragic. Dukang was killed by his sword, but the man was also hit by Dukang's 6-armed Buddha, and the golden ancient costume and the mysterious golden armor on his body were shattered at the same time. But even so, the man was able to leave calmly, which made everyone exclaim. Ruan Xiu's eyes fell on the suitcase that the man picked up from the ground when he left. Dukang, the evil monk, was killed after only 3 attacks. That monk has always been rampant, but I didn't expect that the masked man didn't die after being hit by Dukang. However, Dukang's divine treasure dirty god is very strange. Being injured by it will damage your roots. It will pollute the divine treasure and the mind. At the least, the divine treasure's ability will be weakened, and the mind will be confused. At the worst, the divine treasure will be shattered, and the mind will be dusty, and become a wise fool. While everyone was talking, Ruan Xiu handed the computer to the person next to him. A dry cough attracted everyone's attention. She began to say, everyone. This person is the same one who caused a scene in the tea house last night. The flame sun robe on him is proof of this. It also explains why Dukang would fight with him. Dukang has always been arrogant and unilateral. He must have found his target and was unwilling to join forces with us, but he didn't expect to hit a wall and fall here. In addition, I'm basically sure now. This person is the target of Shenghu group. Black hair, red eyes, Han sword. All these characteristics match. Plus, with the fighting power he had to kill Dukang today, it's basically impossible for him to escape. The two dwarfs exclaimed. In that case, Miss Ruan Xiu, then you can command everyone to go together, capture this guy and claim the reward from Shenghu group. Ruan Xiu smiled faintly. We must chase him. However, this person is highly dangerous. We need to make a plan. Fortunately, Shenghu group said that it doesn't matter whether the target is dead or alive, which gives us a lot of room for operation. Now he has fought with Dukang, and he should have been hit by Dukang's dirty god. For the next period of time, Shen Zhang's mind will be affected. This is a good opportunity for us to deal with him. Ruan Xiu's eyes moved and fell on Old Man Chang. After we find the target, we have to ask old Mr. Chang to take action and control him with your ghost taper drama to create a chance for all of us to kill him. Being named by Ruan Xiu, Old Man Chang was flattered and laughed. Miss Ruan Xiu, you are too polite. I, an old man, will take care of this small matter. Concubine Lin next to her said with a smile. If you want to confuse the target, there is not only Mr. Chang's ghost taper drama, my heavenly demon dance is more effective for men. Miss Ruan Xiu, why don't you let me try first? Hearing this, Old Man Chang's face changed immediately. Concubine Lin, people have to have dignity and trees have to have bark. Don't you know what your heavenly demon dance is like? Do you want everyone to enjoy a Malay drama? Concubine Lin chuckled and said, I'm not afraid of letting you watch, but I'm afraid that you can't control yourself and have nowhere to vent and finally suffocate to death. Old Man Chang's face fell immediately. At this time, Ruan Xiu tried to smooth things over. Miss Lin, I know the power of the demon dance, but let's let Mr. Chang try it first. If it fails, you can do it. What do you think? Concubine Lin gave Ruin Xiu face and stepped back and said, it's up to Miss Ruin. Ruin Xiu nodded and said, then, everyone, get ready. As soon as we get clues about the target, we will set off. Uncle Deo. She turned around and said to the middle-aged man behind her, you take people to find clues. Once you get clues, report immediately. Yes, miss. Uncle Deo immediately pointed out several people to leave with him. The others scattered their things and prepared to attack. Ruin Xiu also got on the car and came to the carriage. A confidant sitting next to her said, Miss Ruin, the suitcase that guy took away when he left should be the real target of Shenghu Group, the device called Jiuying, right? Ruin Xiu nodded. It should be him. It is said that this Jiuying device can find the strange fish. Pingyao City has offered a lot of benefits for this strange fish. Shenghu Group has also sent out invitations to heroes for this strange fish. Some people even say that this strange fish is related to the Sky Overlord who attacked Changping that day. If our Xianfu Group can control this strange fish, the day of our eyes will be just around the corner. So, after killing the target and getting the Jiuying, we will have a chance to find the strange fish faster than others. Chapter 835 Washu Village. Ruin Xiu was ambitious. At this time, she no longer looked like a weak woman in front of others. Her eyes were shining, and she looked determined to get the Jiuying device. Compared with the Shenghu Group that suddenly emerged in the past 6 months, the Xianfu Group has been operating since the natural disaster. The boss of the Xianfu Group, Ruin Xianfu, is Ruin Xiu's father. Under Ruin Xianfu's management, the group's business is booming. Not only does it dominate one side, but it also has cooperative relations with many underground cities. It was originally thought that the Xianfu Group would dominate the Fenshu area, but unexpectedly, the Shenghu Group, that only appeared this year, relying on those terrible blood descendants, almost swept this area. After that, by quickly absorbing small forces and small gangs in various places, the Shenghu Group rose at the speed of light. Even the Xianfu Group was suppressed. As Ruin Xianfu's daughter, how could Ruin Xiu swallow this breath? Therefore, when she knew that the target of the Shenghu Group was actually the Jiuying device, Ruin Xiu had already made up her mind. On the surface, she was hunting for the target for the Shenghu Group, but in fact, she wanted to seize the opportunity to seize the Jiuying and find the strange fish first. As for the people she gathered, whether it was Dukan who had died on the street, or old man Chang, Lin Fei, or even Qiaohe who admired her, to her, they were just chess pieces. As long as she could achieve her goal, she would not hesitate to sacrifice all these chess pieces. A day passed in a blink of an eye. In the evening, Luo Yan saw a village. Washu Village. This village was built near a river called Wu. The village was not big. From the hillside, there were only about 100 households. The houses in the village were basically self-built. The government building in the village was well built. In addition, there was a basketball court behind the village. It seemed that before the natural disaster, the environment of this village was not bad. Now it is naturally a different scene. Outside the village entrance, a large area of farmland has been abandoned and overgrown with weeds, and now it is covered with snow. Half of the houses in the village were ruins. From a distance, it looked like they were accidentally destroyed by a giant beast passing by. However, there are still people in the village. The smoke from cooking in groups of 3 or 4 explains a lot of problems. There is also a homemade gate at the entrance of the village, and 2 villagers are guarding it. When Luo Yan and his friend drove their snowmobiles to the entrance of Washu Village, they saw 2 villagers looking up at them. The 2 men were not young, ugly, and had unfriendly eyes. One of them was peeling rabbit skins. A mountain rabbit was grabbed by its long ears. He cut a hole in its skin with a knife and pulled it hard. The mountain rabbit was not dead. It was skinned alive, screaming in pain, and finally died in pain. The other one walked towards Luo Yan and his friend on the snow with a pistol he had picked up from somewhere. "What are you doing?" The tone was bad, and the muzzle of the gun was pointed at Luo Yan and Song Qiutang intentionally or unintentionally. Song Qiutang said softly, "Let me tell you." She then stepped forward and said in a tone with a local accent, "Fellow villager, we are just passing by. It's getting late. Can you let us spend the night in the village? We will leave tomorrow. Then Song Kyo-tang talked to the village man for a few words and finally gave him a pill. The gate blocking the entrance to the village rose up, allowing Luo Yan and his companions to pass through. When passing the gate, Luo Yan saw the man who was skinning the rabbit and cleaning the internal organs. The man took out the rabbit's heart, wiped it on the snow, and threw it directly into his mouth. Before the other party looked over, Luo Yan retracted his gaze first. Following the guidance of the village man, they came to a yard not far from the entrance of the village and settled down. The yard was overgrown with weeds, but the two-story building was still intact and could barely cope with one night. There was also a well with a lid in the yard. The villager removed the lid and said, "If you want to drink water, fetch it yourself. Anyway, there is no running water now. You can cook and do other things on your own. Don't go out at night and don't cause trouble. Otherwise, the village chief will chase you away and I can't do anything about it." "I know. Thank you, fellow." Song Kyo-tang sent the villager away. Luo Yan moved his things into the small building. Only one side of the door of the small building was left, and broken spring couplets were pasted on both sides of the door. Behind the door was a stone screen, and behind it was the living room. The living room was naturally a mess. Song Kyo-tang cleaned it up quickly, and after a while, the living room became cleaner. Luo Yan cut some weeds outside and brought them in and spread them on the ground. This way, sleeping on the haystack later in the day would not be too cold. Fortunately, except for the missing door, the windows and other things in the house were still intact. It was just a little dirty, but at least it could keep out the wind and snow. For Luo Yan, who had experience living on the surface, such conditions were considered good. But Song Kyo-tang was still a little uncomfortable. Luo Yan watched her set up a tent by herself, then moved hay into the tent and laid it out, and soon she made a small nest. When Song Kyo-tang came out again, Luo Yan gave her a portion of food. "Don't sleep too deeply tonight." Luo Yan glanced at the gate. This village is not peaceful. The man guarding the village entrance is definitely not a good guy. Maybe the people living in this village are no longer the original villagers. I'll go out for a walk later and see if Jiuying can find anything. Song Kyo-tang nodded obediently, picked up the food and ate. After finishing dinner, Luo Yan left the yard. He used the Ki Island to restrain his breath and took advantage of the wind and snow to walk around Washi village. Luo Yan found that most of the villagers lived in the village ancestral hall area. When he passed the ancestral hall, a wild boar was being roasted inside, and more than a dozen men were scattered around the ancestral hall, eating meat and drinking. Luo Yan did not alarm anyone and quietly retreated back to the yard. In the small building in the courtyard, Song Kyo-tang was fiddling with the Jiuying. Seeing Luo Yan coming back, she said, "I just searched around and found no trace of the strange fish nearby. It seems that it has left." Luo Yan nodded, not finding it strange. Song Kyo-tang continued, "However, the Wu River here goes all the way to the west. It will merge into another river 7 or 8 kilometers away. We can go there tomorrow to have a look. By the way, have you found anything?" Luo Yan sat down and said in a deep voice, "The villagers in this village are all middle-aged men. I just walked around and didn't find any women or children. Of course there are no old people either." Song Kyo-tang is not an ignorant little girl. In addition, she has been wandering around for the past few months. She immediately heard something unusual from Luo Yan's words. There are only middle-aged men. Could it be that they are a group of bandits or robbers? Luo Yan took out the dragon elephant and performed daily maintenance. Whether it is true or not, we will know tonight. Chapter 836 Snowy Night. Bloody Night. Luo Yan's words made Song Kyo-tang's heart sink. The woman frowned and said, "Since there is danger in the village, why don't we leave here?" Luo Yan shook his head. "It doesn't matter. I'm here, so they are the ones in danger." Song Kyo-tang was speechless. At this time, Luo Yan stopped wiping the dragon elephant and looked up and asked, "You say, can the strange fish hear the sound waves it emits?" Song Kyo-tang said without thinking, "Of course it can. No matter what the purpose of it emitting this kind of sound waves is, it can definitely receive it. Otherwise, it would be meaningless." Luo Yan followed her tone and said, then you say, if the strange fish receives similar sound waves, but not emitted by itself, what will be the reaction? Song Qiutang was stunned for a moment, then replied, either hide or find out. I think the chance of being attracted by sound waves will be greater. Luo Yan asked curiously, in that case, why didn't you build a machine that can emit similar sound waves to lure the strange fish out? Instead, build a device to search for it. It's more convenient to lure the snake out of the hole than to find out which hole the snake is in, isn't it? Song Qiutang smiled. That's probably because we have never thought about it in this direction. We are biologists, not hunters. We know nothing about hunting. Luo Yan continued to wipe the dragon elephant. Then can you build a device that can emit sound waves? Theoretically, it's possible, but do you think I have the materials on hand? After saying that, Song Qiutang looked at Jiuying. Wait. If we use Jiuying as a prototype for modification, it shouldn't take much material. Even so, the parts, materials, and tools needed for the modification. At least we have to go to a place like the Keiju base to get them. Luo Yan looked at her and said, how about this? Tomorrow we will follow the original plan and search west along the Wu River. If there are no clues, go to the nearest base, buy what you need, and then modify Jiuying. The sooner you find the strange fish, the sooner you can return to Pingyao. Song Qiutang agreed immediately. I'll listen to you. Luo Yan took good care of Dragon Elephant, sheathed the hand sword, and glanced at the door. The wind and snow outside the door were getting stronger. He narrowed his eyes slightly and said, it's late at night. Go to sleep. But you can't sleep here. Come, let's go to another place. Song Qiutang looked at his tent. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I just set it up, and now I have to take it down again. No, leave it. Don't move. Luo Yan stood up. Then, he added some dry firewood to the fire by the door. It was late at night. The door of the ancestral hall in Washu village opened. One figure after another walked out of it. The leader was a bald man with a grey left eye and a centipede-like scar on his arm. He was holding a submachine gun, holding a cigarette in his mouth, and led a dozen big men to the direction of the village entrance. The man and woman are still at the village entrance, the bald man said in a deep voice. The village man who led Luo Yan and the others nodded. They are here, boss. Old Five is watching outside. While the two were talking, 7 or 8 figures walked out from the nearby alleys one after another. They gathered into a team of nearly 30 people, and with the help of the wind and snow, they silently went to the place where Luo Yan and his partner were staying. It's winter now, and business is not good. It's rare for a fat sheep to come to our door, so we have to treat them well. The bald man said with a grin. The men behind him laughed maliciously. Old rules. After killing the man, cut the meat and bones. There are many wild wolves behind this mountain in winter. It's just right to use these things to make traps. If you kill some wild wolves and wild boars, you don't have to worry about food. The bald man quickly decided Luo Yan's fate. A scarred man said, boss, the woman has to stay and play for a few days. The bald man nodded. Of course. When you have fun and get tired of playing, kill her and feed her to the wolves. Boss, you are awesome. As they were talking, they arrived at the yard. They didn't go forward directly, but observed the yard opposite from a distance of about 100 meters. Soon, the man who had been skinning the rabbit alive at the entrance of the village came. Old Five, how is the situation? The bald man asked. Old Five nodded. They have already gone to bed. Immediately, a man said, boss, what are we waiting for? Go in and kill them. The bald man glanced at the man. Your brain is stuck in the door. Use your brain to think carefully. A man and a woman dare to appear in the wilderness at this time of year. Can they be simple people? Be more cautious. Old Five, take a few brothers and send some incense in there first. After we knock them down, it's up to us to kill them or keep them alive. Old Five nodded, immediately pointed at a few people, put on gas masks, and quietly went to the yard. A quarter of an hour later, several people wearing gas masks came back. Boss, it's done. The bald man stood up immediately. Let's go. Dozens of big men came to the outside of the yard. Half of them stayed outside to guard, and the rest followed the bald man into the yard. As soon as they entered the yard, they saw 2 snowmobiles. A short man stepped forward and couldn't let go of the two motorcycles. "Boss, these are great things. With them, we can do business in winter." The bald man ignored him and walked straight to the door of the small building. At this moment, his heart suddenly jumped and he felt flustered. It seemed that something was going to happen. At the same time, some of the men guarding outside the yard suddenly saw a thin, intermittent, and faint golden light appear in the dark night ahead. He rubbed his eyes, and in the blink of an eye, a very faint golden light came quickly like a tide. This golden tide passed through the snow and the falling snowflakes were cut off silently. Then, the street lights, dead old trees, and even the dilapidated walls in front of him were all broken by this golden tide. Seeing all this, the man was so scared that he wanted to scream, but at this time, the golden tide of light had already passed under his eyelids. This tide of light came so fast that the bald man in the yard felt it and turned around. He saw heads rolling down the snow outside the yard, and then a golden tide of light emerged from the wall in front of him. The bald man only felt a flash of golden light in front of his eyes, and then he could not feel the weight of his body. He only saw that the people around him all paused, and then their heads fell to the ground, but they were cut off by the golden tide of light. The bald man wanted to say something, but suddenly the world spun around, and then he saw the dark night sky, and a headless corpse. That was his body. P.S. Thanks to the leader of Ticket Supplement Special, I'm touched. This is the first leader of this book. Thank you. Let me save some manuscripts, and add more in the second half of the month. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 837 Reality and Dreams. Song Kyo-tang was wrapping herself tightly in a blanket, huddled in a corner, holding a submachine gun in her hand under the blanket. After being brought out of the yard by Luo Yan, the two moved to this dark and dilapidated building. The building looked like it had been burned, and it was pitch black everywhere. The environment was much worse than before. What was even more terrible was that Luo Yan had just left her alone and went out, saying that he was cleaning up some things. As soon as Luo Yan left, she was even more afraid to sleep. Listening to the wind outside, she could only pray that Luo Yan would come back soon. Her prayers seemed to be heard by the gods, and not long after, she heard Luo Yan's footsteps. Song Kyo-tang knew that Luo Yan did this on purpose for her to hear it. Otherwise, with his ability, it would not be difficult for him to sneak in quietly. Sure enough, the door opened. Luo Yan walked in with a flashlight. "It's done. You can sleep peacefully from now on." Luo Yan put the dragon elephant in the corner, sat down, folded his arms, and seemed to be planning to lie down and sleep on the spot. Song Kyo-tang looked around and said, "Can't we go back to the house we were in before? At least there is a tent there." Luo Yan lay down on the ground, covered with hay with his clothes on, leaned against the dragon elephant, closed his eyes and said, "You can go back if you want. But it's a bit dirty there now." Song Kyo-tang asked casually, "How dirty?" "Well, there are probably 30 corpses lying inside and outside the yard." Luo Yan answered with his eyes closed. Song Kyo-tang suddenly had the urge to curse. 30 corpses. He just went out for a while and killed so many people. Song Kyo-tang felt powerless and huddled in the corner. "Then I'd better stay here." She didn't want to sleep in the same place with 30 corpses. Luo Yan ignored her this time. Soon, Song Kyo-tang heard the sound of even breathing. She knew that Luo Yan had fallen asleep. For a moment, Song Kyo-tang envied Luo Yan's ability to fall asleep as soon as he lay down. But she didn't know that Luo Yan had not fallen asleep yet. He closed his eyes and slowed down his breathing, which was a preparation before falling asleep. But he hadn't fallen asleep yet. Luo Yan felt a little uncomfortable now. It wasn't because he felt bad for killing those people. When the bald man and his men left the ancestral hall, Luo Yan had already followed them, so he heard everything those men said. Since these men wanted to kill him, Luo Yan had no psychological burden to kill them. But since leaving the chrysanthemum picking base, Luo Yan has been feeling a little uncomfortable. At first, he thought he was sick. But soon, He realized that this discomfort seemed to come from the mental aspect. On this day, Luo Yan would always feel dazed from time to time, unable to concentrate, just like after staying up all night. His spirit was a little low. This made him think unclearly sometimes, just like a window covered with dust. You can see what is outside the window, but because of the dust, you can't see it clearly. Luo Yan suspected that this had something to do with the demon monk Dukan. Although he took the monk's last blow, he felt very uncomfortable at the time. It was like someone poured a bucket of dirty water on him, which made him feel sick. In addition, his mind was dazed, and his thoughts were not clear. These signs appeared after leaving the chrysanthemum picking base. This further deepened Luo Yan's thoughts. Let's have some sleep first. I'll see tomorrow. After saying this to himself, Luo Yan relaxed his mind and fell asleep. He didn't know how long it had been before he felt a warmth and heard a familiar voice calling. Xiao Yan, get up, Xiao Yan. Luo Yan's eyelids moved slightly, and then he slowly opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the bright sunshine pouring in from the window with window grills. The infinite light swept away the haze in his heart. Luo Yan yawned and propped himself up. He was suddenly startled. Under him was not a haystack, but a bed covered with sheets. He was covered with a quilt with traces of sewing, and a novel with a bookmark was placed next to him. Luo Yan looked around. The wardrobe with cartoon stickers was half closed, and the unfolded school uniform fell out. On the table next to him, the homework written last night was not put away, and a second-hand mobile phone was flashing a green light, reminding Luo Yan that the battery was fully charged. There was a photo hanging on the wall next to the door. In the photo, Luo Yan was only about 10 years old, holding the hand of a woman in simple clothes. That was his mother when she was young. Luo Yan felt dazed again. This house, this scene. He was very familiar with it. This was his bedroom at home. Then there was a knock on the door. After knocking 3 times, the door was opened. A woman walked in. Are you awake? Go brush your teeth when you get up. Look at you. You don't even open the window, so the air doesn't circulate. Go wash up. Today is Sunday. I'll clean your room for you. Go to the supermarket later and buy some dumpling skins and lean meat. We'll make dumplings at noon. Why, you haven't woken up yet? Are you sick? The woman, who kept talking, stretched out her hand and pressed it on Luo Yan's forehead. The warm palm made Luo Yan hug the figure in front of him tightly. He was afraid it was just a dream. Child, your forehead isn't hot. If you're not sick, get out of bed. You're so old, you're still acting like a spoiled child. Aren't you ashamed? She said this, but the corners of the woman's mouth were full of smiles. Her eyes were gentle, and her hands, which were already a little rough, gently rubbed Luo Yan's hair. Luo Yan could feel the breath on her body, and this fresh breath told him that this was not a dream. This was not a dream. But wasn't his mother taken away by the car of the giant beast strategic mansion? Moreover, wasn't his home destroyed in the giant beast disaster? Most importantly, he was with Song Qiutang. How could he suddenly return home? A series of questions made Luo Yan suddenly let go of his hand and jumped to the ground. Then he opened the shenzang. This might be some kind of illusion. His peeping silver eyes can see through all illusions. As long as the shenzang is opened, he will know whether it is reality or fantasy. What are you doing? Startled, the woman frowned slightly and then began to fold the quilt. Then seeing Luo Yan dumbfounded, the woman couldn't help laughing. Kit, are you stupid from sleeping? She stood up and pushed Luo Yan to the door. Go wash your face and wake up. She had no idea how shocked Luo Yan was now. Shenzang cannot be activated. Or rather, it disappeared. In Luo Yan's eyes, the world did not become a stick figure. It still had rich colors and layers, instead of being outlined with black strokes. Luo Yan hurried into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. He was stunned when he saw this. In the mirror was a boy of 13 or 14 years old, who looked like he had just entered junior high school. Black hair and brown eyes, gentle eyes, without any murderous intent. Is this me? Chapter 838 Don't talk to strangers. Luo Yan looked at the boy in the mirror and listened to the cicadas chirping outside the window, as if all the previous experiences were a dream. After waking up from the dream, he returned to the summer of junior high school. Back to the best time of his life. Luo Yan still refused to believe it. He took off his shirt quickly and turned around. In the mirror, he was now a little thinner, but there was no scar on his body, not a single one. Luo Yan frowned. He reached out and touched the back of his neck. He remembered that there should be a burn scar here, which was caused by a classmate when he just entered junior high school. But now, there is nothing behind his neck. Could it be that I had a very long dream? Luo Yan was a little dazed. Then he thought of something. He rushed to the living room and suddenly lay on the window. Looking out of the window, under the blue sky and white clouds was a small town that he was very familiar with. Those tall and short buildings, sparrows landing on the power lines, sanitation workers cleaning the streets, and groups of students riding bicycles passing by. A vibrant world. There is no giant beast. There is no disaster. Everything is so beautiful. What are you doing? You took off your clothes and ran around. A familiar voice sounded behind him. Luo Yan turned around and saw his mother Zhao Lejuan coming out of the bedroom, holding a quilt and saying, "Hurry up and wash up and eat. After eating, go to the supermarket to buy things for me." Mom. Luo Yan called out and found that his voice was childish. He walked to Zhao Lejuan and suddenly hugged this ordinary and simple woman tightly. Zhao Lejuan said, "What are you doing so early in the morning?" Luo Yan calmed down, took 2 steps back and said, "I had a dream last night." "What dream did you have?" Zhao Lejuan said, holding the quilt and walking to the balcony. Luo Yan said, while washing his face, "I dreamed about the end of the world." Zhao Lejuan laughed and said, "You always do unlucky things." Luo Yan continued, "I dreamed that the sky cracked open and a huge monster fell from it. It was bigger than the TV station building." Zhao Lejuan stuffed the quilt into the washing machine on the balcony and said to the bathroom window, "I told you not to watch so many movies. You've watched too many of them. This is called thinking about something during the day and dreaming about it at night." Luo Yan smiled, washed his face, and went to the living room, sitting on a small square table. There were soy milk, buns and fried dough sticks on it. He picked up a fried dough stick, tore it into pieces, and threw it into the soy milk. He took another sip of the fragrant soy milk and took a bite of a bun. "I also dreamed that our place was destroyed by a giant monster and we both got lost. I looked for you for a long time, but there was no clue. Later, I dreamed that I grew up, went to an underground city to practice, and drove a big robot." Zhao Lejuan came back from the balcony and wiped her hands on the towel next to her. "What? Practice and drive a robot? What a mess." Luo Yan gulped down the soy milk and ate the softened fried dough sticks. "Anyway, this was a very long dream. Now I'm awake." "That's great. It was just a dream." Zhao Lejuan came over, rubbed his head, then took out 100 yuan and put it on the table. "Have you finished breakfast? Go buy me something. If there's any left, buy something you like." "Okay, thank you, Mom." Luo Yan wiped his mouth with a tissue, took the money, and went to put on his shoes. At this time, his mother called from behind, "Zhao Yan, don't talk to strangers on the road." Luo Yan was stunned and turned back. "Mom, what did you say?" Zhao Lejuan had already walked into his room and cleaned up the room. Luo Yan shrugged his shoulders, put on his shoes, and left the house. As soon as he came out, he heard a voice saying, "Zhao Yan, you're going out." Luo Yan looked up, and it turned out to be Uncle Tijun from the next door neighbor. Tijun, with black hair, healthy hands, and wearing a security uniform, was locking the door. "Good morning, Uncle Tai." Luo Yan greeted, then stared at the middle-aged man in a daze. Tijun turned around and said, "Why are you staring at me like that? Don't you recognize your uncle?" Luo Yan shook his head. "No, that's right. I had a dream last night. I dreamed that Uncle Tai had lost an arm and his hair had turned white." "Oh, and you had a granddaughter?" Tijun laughed. "Kid, how come I was disabled in your dream? But having a granddaughter is not bad. Uncle is leaving. I have to go to work. I really envy you. You have summer vacations, unlike Uncle." "Zhao Yan, study hard so that your mother won't have to work so hard in the future." Luo Yan nodded vigorously. When Tijun walked downstairs, he said without turning his head, "Zhao Yan, don't talk to strangers on the road." "What?" Luo Yan was about to ask more questions when someone in the corridor called out, Luo Yan, come to my house. I brought the game card I bought. Let's have a fight. Luo Yan looked up, and a chubby figure appeared on the stairs, leaning out half of his body, and yelling at him. Chen Jun, a classmate and Luo Yan's childhood friend. A boy with a very even body. But he shouldn't be here now. Luo Yan suddenly had this thought. Then he was stunned. He couldn't figure out why he felt that Chen Jun shouldn't be here. Why are you in a daze? Come up quickly. No one is at home today. Let's play to our heart's content. The fat man's voice brought Luo Yan back to his senses. Luo Yan said, wait a minute. I have to go shopping. My family will make dumplings for lunch. You can come with me. Okay, let's play games in the afternoon after dinner. Then I'll go brush my teeth and wash my face first. Chen Jun grinned. Not sure if it was an illusion. Luo Yan saw that his gums were bleeding. This guy must have gotten angry. He shook his head and walked down the stairs. At this time, Chen Jun's voice came from the stairs. Luo Yan, don't talk to strangers on the road. But Luo Yan didn't hear it this time. At the bus stop not far from his home, Luo Yan took bus number 13 to the supermarket. Looking out of the window, it was a city he was familiar with. Just as the bus passed a street corner, suddenly, Luo Yan saw a woman at the corner looking at him, opened her mouth, and didn't know what she was saying. The woman looked to be almost 30 years old, with pretty features, but there was an ugly dark red uneven scar on her cheek. Soon, they arrived at the supermarket. Luo Yan walked around and bought dumpling skins, lean meat and some snacks. When he handed the money to the cashier at the checkout, the cashier suddenly grabbed his hand. Luo Yan was startled and looked up, only to find that the cashier was the scarred woman he had seen on the street corner. She shouted anxiously, Luo Yan, what are you doing? Luo Yan was about to respond. Suddenly, the old lady who was waiting in line behind him to check out, the cashier at another checkout counter behind him, and the little girl who was playing alone not far away. Everyone in the supermarket looked at Luo Yan. They said in unison, Luo Yan, don't talk to strangers. Chapter 839 Chaos. The sudden sound gathered into a huge sound wave, which scared Luo Yan. When he looked around blankly, he heard the cashier said, here's your change, kid. Luo Yan turned around again, and the cashier had become an ordinary woman, not the scarred woman just now. The old lady next to him was on the phone, probably chatting with her grandchildren, with a smile on her face. The cashier behind was busy settling the bills for customers, shouting next one from time to time. The little girl in the distance hugged the legs of the young mother and begged to buy a cat pillow. Everyone in the supermarket was busy with their own work and didn't even look over here. The huge sound just now. It was like Luo Yan's hallucination. He was confused until he walked out of the supermarket. Back home. Mom, I bought the things. Luo Yan put the dumpling skins and other things on the table and ran to the corridor and shouted, Chen Yingjun, I'm back. Come down to help make dumplings. A voice above said cursingly, don't change my name, it's so annoying. Are you still a primary school student? Chen Jun walked down the stairs in a pair of slippers. As he approached, Luo Yan suddenly smelled a strange smell. It was like throwing fish on the road to dry in the summer, a fishy smell. This made Luo Yan take a few steps back. What are you doing? Chen Jun still had a bag of sizzling CC jelly in his hand and threw it to Luo Yan. Luo Yan took it. The strange smell was gone at this time. Luo Yan shook his head and said, come in. He walked into the room and said, Mom, Chen Jun is here. Let's eat dumplings together at noon. He doesn't need to eat too much. 2 is enough. He is losing weight. Chen Jun said angrily, who is losing weight? I'm not. My dad said that men should have some weight. Do you think everyone is like you, with thin arms and legs? Zhao Lijuan came over and smiled. That's right. I think Xianogen is good like this. Chen Jun immediately showed his white teeth and smiled. Auntie still understands me. Luo Yan sucked the jelly and pulled a chair to sit down. Come on, help make dumplings. Make it if you want. The dumplings I make are stuffed. Soon. Lunch was finished. Luo Yan packed his things and went to the kitchen to wash. Zhao Lijuan changed her clothes, came out and said, Jiuying, mom has to work the night shift today. You don't have to wait for me to come back at night. Just leave a light on for me. Jiuying said, I'll pick you up in the evening. There will be no buses when you get off work. It's okay, I'll walk back. Jiuying said casually. Jiuying insisted, no, that would take a long time. Besides, you work the night shift today and you have to work the day shift tomorrow. When you walk back, it will be daybreak. How can you rest? Chen-jun chimed in. That's right, auntie. Let Jiuying pick you up. He's not a kid anymore. He should exercise. Jiuying glared at him. Chen-jun, you come with me tonight. Chen-jun immediately made a bitter face. Brother Luo, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I can't ride such a long distance on a bicycle. My fat body won't agree. Jiuying made the fat man laugh. Okay, don't embarrass Jiuying. When you come tonight, be careful, especially on Rangfu Road. There are a lot of cars. Ride slowly. After giving Jiuying a few more instructions, Jiuying left. Chen-jun also stood up. Come to my house. After you pack your things, I'll go and have fun first. Jiuying nodded in agreement. At this time, he was the only one left at home. Jiuying was washing the dishes in a familiar way. Suddenly, the kitchen window rang. He looked up and saw nothing outside the window. Jiuying was stunned for a moment, but he didn't take it seriously and continued to wash the dishes. But at this time, a palm print appeared on the window. Unfortunately, the palm print disappeared quickly. When Jiuying looked up again, after washing the dishes, he saw nothing. He quickly came to Chen-jun's house and rang the doorbell. Then he heard the fat man inside shouting, the door is not locked, come in by yourself. Damn, is this computer character so powerful? Jiuying opened the door, and for a moment, he smelled the fishy smell again. But as soon as he frowned, the strange smell disappeared. Fatty Chen was sitting on the floor of the living room, biting a popsicle in his mouth, holding a game console controller and shouting, Jiuying, come here quickly. This game is so fun and exciting. Chen-jun's family conditions are much better than Jiuying's, so Chen-jun has more toys than Jiuying, since he was a child. From small handmade models to large game console remote control cars. Except for the fact that he was a bit fat, everything Chen-jun had was what Jiuying desired and envied. After closing the door, Jiuying came to the fat man. Chen-jun handed him a game controller. By the way, there is a movie tomorrow. Let's go to see it together. Jiuying took the controller and said, no, summer vacation has begun. I plan to go to work and help my mother relieve the pressure. Not on this day. Besides, I have bought the tickets. Chen-jun took out 2 movie tickets and shook them. Jiuying thought for a moment and said, okay then. I'll pay you back the price of the movie ticket. Chen-jun put down the game controller. Jiuying, this is your fault. We grew up together. We have been friends for so many years, and you still want to settle accounts with me so clearly. Jiuying smiled. Then I'll treat you to a soda. That's right. The fat man smiled so hard that his eyes were invisible. By the way, Zhang Heo, Jiuying and others will go together tomorrow. Jiuying was stunned. They are going to? Then I'd rather not go. I don't get along with them. Chen-jun patted his shoulder. What are you talking about? Zhang Heo is also a good friend of ours. Jiuying has a crush on you. How can you not get along with each other? Jiuying looked at the fat man. Did you take the wrong medicine? Zhang Heo made a joke about my family being a single parent family. When Jiuying started school, she even used a red hot iron ruler to burn a big blister on the back of my neck. How could I get along with them? Chen-jun stretched out his fat hand to cover Jiuying's forehead. You are not sick, are you? When did Zhang Heo make fun of your family? When you were bullied by Gaonan, he was the first one to rush up and beat you up. It's ridiculous that Jiuying burned you with a red hot iron ruler. You said that a big blister was burned, so there must be some scars. The back of your neck is delicate and tender. How can it look like it has been burned? Jiuying was stunned by what the fat man said. He subconsciously touched the back of his neck. Indeed, there was no scar on the back. He just checked it in the mirror this morning. But if there were no scars, why would he have these memories? Could it be that they were also a dream he had? Did he confuse dreams with reality? At this moment, the game cutscene, when the TV screen went black, Liu Yan saw that the TV reflected the appearance of the hall window. Just outside the window, a woman was banging on the window. There was a red scar on the woman's cheek. Chapter 840 Cage. Liu Yan looked back suddenly. He saw the window in the hall move, but there was no one outside the window. What's wrong? Chen Jun asked. Liu Yan frowned and said, I seemed to see someone outside the window just now. Chen Jun laughed. Brother, this is the 5th floor. How could there be someone outside the window? Are you hallucinating? Liu Yan shook his head and said, I always feel weird today. It's the first day of summer vacation. That's what happened. I woke up today and planned to go to school, but then I thought, why not play? Today is a holiday. Chen Jun laughed, then patted Liu Yan on the shoulder. Don't think too much. Play games. At night, Liu Yan rode his bicycle to the factory where his mother worked. He arrived a little early and waited outside the factory gate. A moment later, the factory was off work. Seeing his mother coming out, Liu Yan rode his bicycle over. Xiao Yan, come pick up your mother. Xiao Yan is really sensible. Xiao Yan, come to auntie's house tomorrow. Zhao Lijuan's coworkers greeted Liu Yan in 2s and 3s. Liu Yan responded one by one, and a few minutes later, he took his mother home on a bicycle. Sitting on the back of the bicycle, Zhao Lijuan suddenly said, Xiao Yan, I'm sorry that you've suffered a lot following your mother. Mom doesn't make money, so I can't let you live a good life. From childhood to adulthood, the number of toys I've bought for you can be counted on my 10 fingers. I know you've been coveting Xiaojan's game console for a long time, but mom can't even afford this little money. Liu Yan's nose was sour and he said, Mom, what are you talking about? How am I wronged? I have food to eat and clothes to wear, and I'm fine. I don't like toys either. They're so childish. As for the game console, Chen Yingjun always asks me to go to his house to play, and I'm annoyed. If you buy me another game console, I'm afraid it will be left to gather dust. Let's not waste the money. Zhao Lijuan made him laugh. I know you're comforting your mother. I, Zhao Lijuan, am content to have a son like you. Xiao Yan, study hard. If you can get into a good university in the future, mom will sell everything she has to support you in college. When you get out, find a good job. Don't be a worker like your mom. Liu Yan rode his bicycle. The cool summer evening breeze made him feel comfortable. I know, Mom. I'll let you enjoy life in the future. Yeah, I know. My little Yan will have a bright future. The next day, Liu Yan and Chen Jun got off the bus and saw Zhang Heyo, Jiuying Mimui and other classmates waiting at the entrance of the cinema from a distance. As soon as they saw them, they waved. Let's go. The movie is about to start. Chen Jun took 2 steps and began to pant. Liu Yan glanced at him and smiled. You should lose weight. At this moment, he caught a glimpse of a shadow from the corner of his eye. Liu Yan, what are you doing? Wake up. Suddenly, a woman's voice called out. But when Liu Yan looked over, there was no woman, only 2 students handing out flowers to passers-by. The summer cicadas were calling desperately on the trees. Liu Yan patted his head gently, thinking, am I not used to the summer vacation life yet? Arrived at the entrance of the cinema, Zhang Heyo, a tall and strong man, came over with several bottles of drinks. What are you two waiting for? We've been waiting for you. Here, choose for yourselves. I bought some drinks, but I don't know if they suit your taste. Liu Yan finally took a bottle of mineral water. Jiuying Mimui, who had 2 ponytails, came over, took Liu Yan's hand and said, the movie is about to start. Let's go in quickly. The classmates next to him started to make a noise. Hey, Mimui, why are you only pulling Liu Yan and not us? That's right, Mimui, tell me, do you like Liu Yan? The green youth, the playful words, everything was so beautiful. Liu Yan was a little dazed when he looked at Jiuying Mimui's 2 ponytails. It seemed that in his dream, he also knew a girl who looked similar. He seemed to have told the girl that he would protect her, no matter what kind of danger she encountered. Liu Yan, what are you thinking about? A girl jumped in front of Liu Yan, put her hands on her hips and said, don't bully Mimui, otherwise, we will be angry with you. Sun Xiaomei, don't scare my buddy. Chen Jun came out to defend the injustice. Zhang Hao covered his forehead and said, brother and sister, can we go in and talk first? The tickets are about to be checked. The cinema was full of people. Luo Yan and Jiuo Mimui sat together. Jiuo Mimui took out a tissue to help Luo Yan wipe his sweat, which immediately caused a burst of laughter from the classmates next to him. Luo Yan hurriedly said, I'll do it myself. Fortunately, the movie started at this time, and the classmates' attention was diverted. Luo Yan was relieved. The movie was very exciting, and Luo Yan couldn't take his eyes off it. At this time, a female character appeared in the movie. She walked quickly in front of the camera, so Luo Yan could see clearly that the woman had a dark red scar on her face. Why was it her? Luo Yan's mind flashed through yesterday's experience. On the street corner, in the supermarket, and outside the window of Chen Jun's house. He had seen this woman before. Now, she actually appeared in the movie. Luo Yan, wake up. You are dreaming. I don't know what you are dreaming about, but you must believe me. None of this is true. The cinema shook violently. Luo Yan stood up suddenly, but he found that the woman was nowhere to be found on the movie screen. The audience around him and classmates such as Chen Jun were also looking at him strangely. Luo Yan, what's wrong with you? Jiuo Mimui said worriedly. Luo Yan covered his forehead, and a name came to his mind. Song Tang. That was the name of the scarred woman. Then some pictures flashed through Luo Yan's mind. Wilderness, snow, killing, blood, demon monks, small villages, a headache. Luo Yan said, I feel a little uncomfortable. I'll go back first. Chen Jun quickly stood up. I'll take you. Other classmates wanted to follow, but Luo Yan declined. Luo Yan sat down on the bus. Since leaving the cinema, for some reason, his heartbeat has been very fast. He even heard the roar of some kind of beast from time to time. He covered his head. His head hurt like a splitting headache, as if something deep in his brain wanted to come out, but was blocked by an invisible cage. Chen Jun, who was sitting next to him, said nervously, Luo Yan, you look very bad. Do you want to go to the hospital? He didn't know if it was because the fat man was too close, so when he spoke, Luo Yan smelled a fishy smell of dead fish from his mouth. This made him even more uncomfortable. He wanted to say something. At this time, the bus entered the tunnel. It was pitch black outside the window, so the window reflected Luo Yan's figure. In the window, Luo Yan saw that he was taller than he is now, and he was already in his 20s. Moreover, the self in the window was covered with grey-blue scales. His eyes were red, and golden yellow vertical lines appeared in the middle. Black hair was flying. A dark red horn rose in front of his forehead. A demon pupil emitting red light appeared on his chest, and long claws on both hands also emitting demonic red light. This inhuman posture made Luo Yan stunned. At the same time, a word was unconsciously said by him. Transform into a dragon? Chapter 841 Encirclement. When Luo Yan said the word transform into a dragon, the figure in the window moved. He suddenly jumped out, turning from a flat surface to a three-dimensional one, from an illusion to reality. Luo Yan was frightened, watching the other self jumping out of the car window, and heard a crisp cracking sound in his ears. It was as if something was broken. After the figure jumped out of the car window, it turned into a lizard dragon. It had a lizard-like body, but with a dragon head, two golden horns, and a pair of golden dragon eyes reflecting Luo Yan's current appearance. The lizard dragon opened its mouth and bit. Luo Yan instinctively raised his hands to block it, but the lizard dragon, like a phantom, went straight through his hands and its big head sank into Luo Yan's body. When it retreated again, the lizard dragon had two twisting things in its mouth. One was a dark mass of sewage-like things, and a hideous and ferocious face appeared on its surface from time to time. One was a thing with a head that looked like a wild boar, but the body of the wild boar was made up of colorful lights. If you look closely, you can see some images from those lights. After the lizard dragon pulled these two things out of Luo Yan's body, the sewage ball and the wild boar broke free from the dragon's kiss, one on the left, and one on the right, trying to escape. But at this time, the lizard dragon raised his hand and pressed it, stepping on the black sewage ball under his feet. At the same time, he opened his mouth and bit half of the wild boar's body, and the two things were immediately unable to move. When the lizard dragon pulled the two things out of Luo Yan's body, Luo Yan felt that the invisible cage disappeared. A large number of pictures flashed before his eyes like a gusher. He saw himself using a belt of long rainbow to kill the bandits. He saw himself using one kill in 10 steps to kill the demon monk. He saw himself meeting Song Qiutang in the wilderness. He saw Wei Fenghua sleeping at his desk. He saw pictures of the past. Only then did he know. It turned out that it was not a dream. The current reality is a dream. Luo Yan, why are you crying? Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere? Chen Jun's voice rang out. Luo Yan covered his face with his hands. Hot tears flowed down from his palms. Chen Yingjun, you are not real. Chen Jun was stunned for a moment, then laughed. What are you talking about? What do you mean I'm not real? If I'm not real, then what am I? Luo Yan's voice choked. He said, now I know why I always smell a dead fish smell when I'm around you. I remember, after you graduated from elementary school and were about to enter junior high school that summer vacation, you died. That day, the bus we took had a car accident. You were on the bus at that time. You are already dead, Chen Yingjun. So you have a bad smell on your body. That is the smell of a corpse. Your uncle and aunt have not been home for the past 2 days. Of course, they were too sad after you died and had to leave this city. So you have been alone all the time. Luo Yan took his hand away, his eyes red, looking directly at Chen Jun now. This is my best friend, my childhood friend, my brother. His death is a bloody wound in my heart. It took me so many years to make it close a little. It was you. You tore it open and sprinkled salt on it. Kill you. I will definitely get out and kill you. No one can save you. No one. Chen Jun seemed to be frightened by Luo Yan and did not move. At this time, the eyes of the young man in front of him suddenly became much older, and there was fear in his eyes. Then, a horn sounded outside. A car entering the tunnel lost control, and the snow-white light passed through the bus compartment. The bus driver hurriedly turned the steering wheel, and the car crashed into a truck traveling in the same direction. The world was spinning. When Luo Yan came to his senses, he saw a bus collided with a truck in the tunnel, and everything on the truck fell off and crushed the bus. Blood kept pouring out from the gaps in the doors and windows of the bus. The passengers on the bus, including the driver, were all killed. Luo Yan covered his chest and kept saying with his eyes closed, wake up. Wake up quickly. I want to wake up. After a while, he heard the sound of a kitchen knife cutting vegetables. Luo Yan opened his eyes and found that he did not wake up, but return home. The sound of cutting vegetables came from the kitchen. Then Zhao Lijuan came out. Zhao Yan, you are back. Aunt Lu will take my shift this afternoon, so I can come back to cook. Wait a little longer, and we can have dinner. Luo Yan clenched his fists. He said with gritted teeth, you are looking for death. Zhao Lijuan was stunned. Zhao Yan, what are you talking about? Luo Yan saw some pictures in the kitchen knife in her hand. In the picture, Song Qiutang was lying under the window, holding out the submachine gun, and shooting blindly at the downstairs. She faced Luo Yan, opened her mouth and shouted something. Luo Yan, wake up quickly. We are surrounded. Washu village, in the small black building. Song Qiutang shouted at Luo Yan, who was lying on the haystack, curled up into a ball, with tears in the corners of his eyes and an angry expression. It was already daybreak, but Song Qiutang found that no matter how much she shouted, she couldn't wake Luo Yan up. What's more terrible is that some adventurers and wilderness hunters appeared from nowhere and sneaked over. Fortunately, Song Qiutang found them, otherwise it would be too late when they climbed up the stairs. But in this situation, she didn't know how long she could hold on. The only hope was Luo Yan at this moment. Outside Washu town, in a car, old man Chang had blood in his eyes and nose and shouted, kill him. I can't hold on any longer. He resisted very strongly, and for some reason, my ghost dream taper is greatly suppressed. I may not be able to hold on for much longer. Ruin Xiu sat next to him, looking surprised. That man was injured by Du Kang's dirty god first, and then was affected by your ghost taper play. He can still resist? She quickly picked up the intercom and shouted, Team 1, attack for me. Other teams should prepare for the response according to the original plan. After Ruan Xiu finished speaking, she put down the intercom and looked at old man Jiuying, whose eyes and nose were bleeding, with a heavy heart. There was always a feeling that the plan would change greatly. At this time, the figure of the young Luo Yan appeared in old man Chang's eyes. He saw Luo Yan in the dream directly through his own Shenzang ghost dream taper. In the dream, Luo Yan suddenly stepped forward and snatched the kitchen knife from Zhao Lijuan. Zhao Lijuan was startled. Zhao Yan, what are you doing? Luo Yan put the knife across his neck. I heard that if a person dies in a dream, he will wake up. I think about it, and this is the only way now. Chapter 842, collapse is imminent. Don't be impulsive, Zhao Yan. Zhao Lijuan hurriedly shouted, you are hurting yourself, put the knife down. Luo Yan shook his head and even pressed the blade against his neck. The sharp blade immediately caused a drop of blood to flow from his neck. Zhao Lijuan said sadly, your father has left me, and now you are leaving me too? Is it reality or a dream? Is it so important? Zhao Yan, isn't the most important thing that we can be together as mother and son? Luo Yan nodded. Yes, the experience of these 2 days should be the life I most desire in my heart. It's so sunny and warm here. The reality is cold and cruel. This is heaven. I really want to stay. I also know that this choice will be easier. But I have to leave here. Because you are not my mother. Also because you remind me that my real mother is still waiting for me somewhere. Swing the knife and kiss yourself. No. Zhao Lijuan pounced on him. However, she pounced in vain. Luo Yan disappeared. After that, even herself, as well as this residential building and this city, this dream, all disappeared. It was over. Outside Washu village, in the car, old man Chang screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Suddenly, his face was as pale as gold paper, and he covered his chest and gasped, saying, he woke up. It's terrible. We must kill him. He's too cruel. He's so cruel that he doesn't show any mercy when he kills himself. Ruan Xiu's heart sank when she heard it. At the same time, in the small building, Song Qiutang had run out of bullets. She retreated again and again. Then she saw figures coming in from the windows around. Although it was already dawn, the light in the small building was still dim. 7 or 8 adventurers and wild werewolves surrounded them with ill intentions. Damn it, this little girl has wasted so much of our time. Hey, woman. Scream quickly, and then I'll kill you. Several men looked at Song Qiutang playfully, and at this time Ruan Xiu's voice rang in their headphones. Kill the target quickly. The men shrugged their shoulders and were about to kill. Suddenly, in the darkness behind Song Qiutang, an amber light rose and condensed into the shadow of a lizard dragon. Then, in the shadow, someone stood up, with 2 terrifying red lights in his eyes. Song Qiutang shuddered. She suddenly felt that the air in the room became cold for some reason. Moreover, there seemed to be a very scary beast behind her. The beast seemed to be sticking out its long tongue and licking her face gently. Outside Washu village, Ruan Xiu in the car suddenly heard screams, cries, and curses from the intercom. She looked at the black building in the village suddenly and saw that the windows of the building were constantly reflecting colorful lights. Ruan Xiu made a prompt decision. Uncle Deo, let's stay away from here. The car started and drove away from Washu village. But Ruan Xiu used the intercom to let the teams in Washu village form a circle and prepare for battle. In the small building, Song Qiutang was trembling all over. Blood was everywhere on the ground, walls and even the ceiling. Right at her feet, a bald man opened his mouth wide. The man's neck and below were gone, leaving only a head. She didn't dare to turn around. She just felt that there was a beast behind her. Until Luo Yan's voice sounded. We have to go. Luo Yan walked over from the corner of her eye. Song Qiutang saw him walk to the window and look out. Then he said, I'll carry you. You take Jiuying and ignore the others. Song Qiutang nodded. Aren't we going to get the snowmobiles? Luo Yan collected several cloaks from the corpses on the ground and tore them into strips of cloth. If we don't take them, those motorcycles must have been damaged or tampered with. You get on. He pointed at his back. Song Qiutang suppressed her nausea, stepped on the minced meat on the ground, and lay on Luo Yan's back. Luo Yan used the strips of cloth to tie Song Qiutang tightly to himself. Song Qiutang opened her mouth and asked, "Are you okay?" "Yeah." Luo Yan's response was still cold. He tied Song Qiutang's hands and Jiuying together with a cloth strip, and then picked up Dragon Elephant. "Close your eyes." Song Qiutang quickly closed her eyes, and then heard the sound of wind piercing her ears. Luo Yan had already rushed out of the window of the small building. As soon as they appeared, gunshots rang out from all directions. But the two of them suddenly flashed in the air. When they reappeared, they had already stepped on the ground. The footwork was like a dragonfly skimming the water. As soon as Luo Yan landed, he quickly used the secret method KO and wheel, and his Yuanli burst out, greatly increasing his speed. He rushed towards the small courtyard where two snowmobiles were placed and immediately attracted the hunters and adventurers in the town to gather in that direction. But when he saw the small courtyard, Luo Yan suddenly changed direction and rushed to the direction with the least number of people in the encirclement. At this time, circles of silver light appeared in Luo Yan's eyes. He was using the silver eyes of peering, so although there were many buildings and shelters, the personnel deployment of Ruin Xiu's side could not be hidden from Luo Yan's eyes. After waking up, Luo Yan found that his state had returned to normal. He did not feel dazed. His thoughts were clear. He knew what he was doing now and what he should do next. So although Ruin Xiu had many people, he let Luo Yan lead him by the nose. Luo Yan used the burst brought by the KO and wheel to increase speed, and from time to time used dragonfly touching the water to disappear from everyone's sight, gradually disrupting Ruin Xiu's arrangement in Washu village. Although Ruin Xiu was commanding from a distance, the people in Washu village were always a mob, and even if she was commanding, it was difficult to do it as she wished. In addition, Luo Yan's whereabouts were erratic, so the team in Washu village had not heard the previous order clearly, and the next order came down, so that they did not know which order to obey. Soon, the encirclement in Washu village began to become chaotic, and Ruin Xiu had already smelled the breath of collapse. He went to the ancestral hall. Bullshit, I saw him running to the village square. No, he went to the village entrance. Damn, where should we chase him? In the chaos, Luo Yan carried Song Qiutang on his back and rushed to the entrance of Washu village. There were more than a dozen snowmobiles parked there, and the riders on the motorcycles shouted, "He's coming this way. Open fire. Kill him." These people are the last line of defense of the encirclement. If they are broken through, today's operation will fail. These riders are members of the Xianfu group, and no one backed down. Those who are good at mystical arts raised the empty wall, those who are good at shooting raised their submachine guns, and a few who are good at close combat burst their energy and rushed over. In a blink of an eye, a very rich offensive was formed. Chapter 843, A Surprise Attack. Stop him, as long as we can hold him back, he'll be finished. Hold steady, don't panic, there's only one of him, how powerful can he be? He's coming. Concentrate your firepower and consume his golden armor. On the defense line, the men shouted one after another. Everyone stared at Luo Yan, who emerged from the other end of the village road and used all their fiercest firepower and most powerful combat skills. They only hoped to stop Luo Yan so that the adventurers and wilderness hunters chasing out of Wu village would tear the opponent apart. However, at this time, they took Luo Yan's sword and swept it horizontally. The sword tip swept out a golden light, and that light quickly turned into a golden light wave that swept across like a tide. A unique skill, a long rainbow. Suddenly, the dense barrage was cut apart. Various combat skills were cut apart. Next, it was the empty wall, which was a variety of protection techniques. Finally, it was the human body. Except for the 2 or 3 people who immediately fell to the ground when they saw the light wave. The people on the other lines of defense either had their heads blown into the air or their bodies cut into several pieces. The light wave swept past. The line of defense at the entrance of the village collapsed. Luo Yan took the opportunity to carry Song Qiutang on his back and jumped onto a snowmobile. He twisted the throttle and the motorcycle slid across the snow, raising snow powder. When the hunters and adventurers in the village chased out, Luo Yan was no longer visible. In a car far away from the village, Ruin Xiu put down the walkie-talkie and covered her face with her hands. She never thought that the operation that she thought was foolproof would end in a miserable failure. The target was clearly trapped, but in the end, it still failed. Miss. Uncle Deo looked over worriedly. Ruin Xiu shook her head. I'm fine. Clean up the battlefield. Treat the injured. Let's rest here and then chase. She glanced at the old man Chang next to her. Give priority to treating Mr. Chang. The old man Chang said weakly. Thank you, Miss Ruin. Snow. A snowmobile was speeding, passing by the silvery white snow. It was already a long way from Wu village when Luo Yan slowed down the speed and finally found a place to rest. Only then did he put Song Qiutang down. Song Qiutang moved her sore hands and feet. She had been hanging on Luo Yan's body just now and tied up with cloth strips, so it was inevitable that her blood circulation was blocked. Now her hands and feet were numb, and she turned around several times in the same place before she felt better. Luo Yang put the Jiuying device on the ground and threw a submachine gun that he had snatched during the breakout to Song Qiutang. Wait for me here. Song Qiutang was stunned. Where are you going? Luo Yan said lightly. Go back to do something. Song Qiutang was shocked. You still want to go back? Don't do anything stupid. We finally got out. If you go back, aren't you walking into a trap? Luo Yan didn't explain too much. He turned the accelerator and drove away. Hey, you just left me here like this. I'm so angry. Young people nowadays have no manners at all. After all, I'm older than you. At least explain it to me. Song Qiutang looked headache. You're so crazy at such a young age. What will happen when you grow up? She looked around, sighed as if resigned to her fate, holding a submachine gun in one hand and the Jiuying device in the other, and went into a room. On the snow, the motorcycle quickly returned along the original route. It didn't snow today, but the wind was quite strong, and the whistling wind even covered the sound of the engine. Luo Yan wore goggles, his red eyes were firm, and murderous intent was surging. He didn't forget what happened in his dream. He didn't forget the people and things he cared about. They were all used by others. No matter who that person is. He has trampled on Luo Yan's wounds. He must pay the price. In addition, those people from Xianfu group can't be left alone. Luo Yan believes that even with the setback just now, the other party will definitely not give up. If they want to stop this tale from following them, they must be shocked. Obviously, the shock just now is not enough. Only enough blood and corpses can suppress the ambition and desire in some people's hearts. In addition, Luo Yan also needs supplies. In order to get away just now, the two of them rode lightly. Not only did they leave behind 2 snowmobiles, but they also left behind rations, water, and fuel. Without these, even if they have broken through, they can't go far. Therefore, Luo Yan has sufficient reasons to return to Wu village. It's just that his personality makes him too lazy to explain too much to Song Qiutang, who is not even a friend. He rode away in the dust. In a blink of an eye, Wu village is in sight. Now, the ancestral hall of Wu village has been cleaned up and used as a camp for treating the wounded. Old man Chang is lying in one of the houses. His condition is still stable, but he basically can't fight with others in a short time. As for the others, they are scattered all over Wu village. Some people sleep and study, some smoke, and some stroll around. They are relaxing and adjusting in their own ways. Near the entrance of the village, in the yard where Luo Yan and his 2 snowmobiles were parked, several wilderness hunters were playing cards. One of them stood up after losing and said, I'm going to pee, you wait for me. The hunter held a cigarette in his mouth and ran to the woods outside the village, cursing. Damn it, I really lost a lot this time. Xianfu group doesn't look as powerful as the legend says. That woman surnamed Ruin has the nerve to be a celestial official when she commands like this. If it's easy to be a celestial official, I can do it. He came to a camphor tree, unzipped his zipper, and began to release. After he finished, his shoulders sank suddenly as he zipped up. The hunter jumped in shock, and from the corner of his eye, he saw a simple Han sword. There were a few small words engraved on the sword. He was immediately startled. That killer is back again. He actually dared to come back. Behind the hunter, Luo Yang put the dragon elephant on the man's shoulders and said in a deep voice, who trapped me in the dream? I count to 3. If you don't tell me or don't know, I will ask the next one. Wonder Hunter couldn't help but sweat. He knew that if Luo Yan asked the next one, he would definitely die. So before Luo Yan counted to 3, he shouted, "It's Old Man Chang. His magic treasure ghost dream taper can affect dreams." Luo Yan's mind suddenly flashed the old man with a colorful cloak. Where is Chang now? The hunter didn't dare to hide it. In the ancestral hall. It is now used as a medical camp. Old Man Chang is there. Please let me go. I promise that I will leave immediately and no longer participate in this operation. Little brother, I have old people and children to take care of. I have no choice but to deal with you. Please spare me this time. Chapter 844 Empathy. The hunter talked a lot, and he didn't even know when the hand sword left his shoulder. I have an 80-year-old mother at home. The old lady is blind and has difficulty walking. I have to hire someone to take care of her. My poor daughter. As he spoke, he glanced at his shoulder and found that the hand sword was gone, so he shut up. The hunter covered his chest and felt lucky. He could brag about being able to escape from that killer sword for a year. He turned around and looked at Wukong. If I go back and remind Ruin Xiu now, I wonder if I can join Cheyenne Food Group. If I join Cheyenne Food Group, I will be a staffed person and I won't have to live with my head hanging on my waist. The hunter raised his foot and then put it down. No, no. That killer obviously wants to make ordinary old men unlucky. If he meets me in the village, I will definitely not run away this time. It's good to join Cheyenne Food Group, but you have to survive. Forget it. I won't accompany you anymore. Goodbye. In the end, the hunter chose another direction and quietly left Wu village under the cover of the woods. After he walked for a while, the bushes nearby shook and Luo Yan came out from it. The hunter gave him the answer and Luo Yan let him go. But if this hunter wanted to go back and remind Ruin Xiu, there would be only one outcome. However, the man finally chose to save his life. Luo Yan let him go. As for the other people in Wu village, Luo Yan was not so kind. Silver light appeared in his red eyes. Under the gaze of the silver eyes of Peeping Dao, the world turned into a black and white stick drawing in Luo Yan's eyes. In this painting, there were clusters of grey light. Luo Yan quickly selected 3 places where the grey light of biological organisms was the most dense. Yuan Li appeared. Kalan wheel. Dragon elephant flew into the air and slashed out 3 swords in an instant. That kid, Lao Zhang, took so long to pee. Didn't he take the opportunity to run away? The people who were playing cards before are now surrounded by many hunters and adventurers by the stall. They are all waiting for the hunter who went to pee. A man with a mustache said, "Why don't I take his place? How long will it take?" "Okay, wait for that kid to come back. He will be in trouble." Deal. Deal. A hunter who acted as the dealer began to deal cards. He only dealt 2 cards when he saw a sharp golden light in the corner of his eye. As soon as he turned his head to look, his vision was divided into 2 parts by a golden light. Deep in Washu village, Ruin Xiu had just reported the latest situation to the group when she heard exclamations and screams outside. She put down her phone, went to the window, and looked out from the 3-story building. 3 golden waves spread rapidly, and wherever they passed, buildings collapsed and large groups of blood bloomed. Lu Xiu's cell phone fell to the ground. The blood color on the woman's lips faded, her pupils dilated slightly, and she exclaimed, "He's back. That man dared to come back?" Uncle Dao rushed over and said, "Miss, we were attacked and suffered a lot of casualties." Ruin Xiu came back to her senses and said with gritted teeth, "Mobilize the troops immediately and kill him, otherwise our Cheyenne Food Group will not be able to raise its head on the surface in the future." With an order, the remaining people in the village were immediately mobilized and divided into several teams to chase the place where the golden light wave appeared just now. In this way, except for the ancestral hall, there were almost no people in other places in the village. Using the secret method opening the ghost wheel, Luo Yan touched the outside of the ancestral hall and climbed over the wall to enter. He had already locked onto Old Man Chang's room, and as soon as he entered the ancestral hall, he flashed into the house. Old Man Chang was lying on the bed tiredly, and he was receiving an infusion. Hearing the sound of the wind, he reluctantly opened his eyes and saw a figure standing in front of the bed. Old man Chang thought it was a doctor, but suddenly he saw that the man had black hair and red eyes, a grim expression, and was looking at him as if he were a corpse. The old man was startled and was about to jump up, but a dagger pierced directly into his shoulder socket, penetrated the flesh, and stabbed into the bed. Old man Chang's head hurt so much that he wanted to scream, but Luo Yan covered it with his hand. Luo Yan looked at the old man and said, Chen Yingjun and I have known each other since we were very young. We lived in the same building and went to the same kindergarten. His family was well off, and he always ate a lot and made himself fat. But he never looked down on me. He was my best friend and my brother. I originally thought that we would grow up together like this, but in the summer, when I was promoted to junior high school, he died. Old man Chang said incoherently under Luo Yan's palm. What did you say? I don't know any Chen Yingjun. Luo Yan ignored him and continued. The fat guy had a car accident. He was on a bus at the time. The bus had a serious car accident in the tunnel. In order to avoid an out-of-control car, it crashed into a truck carrying cement pipes. As a result, the truck overturned, and the cement pipes on the truck fell down. Chen Jun was crushed to a bloody mess. I heard that all his bones were broken. His parents couldn't accept this, so they moved out. After dealing with his funeral, I suppressed it for a whole summer. Every time I went out, I had the illusion that I heard him calling me to go upstairs to play games. It took me a long time to bury this matter in my heart. I didn't want to touch it, and I didn't tell anyone. Even my current friends don't know about this past. But you dug it out. You made my best friend die again in front of my eyes. Tell me, should you die? Old man Chang shouted hurriedly. Little brother, listen to me. My Shenzang's dream taper can affect dreams, but how it affects and how it affects is beyond my control. I swear, I really didn't know that I would touch upon those past events that you don't want to talk about. Old man, I was just following orders. If you want to blame someone, blame Ruin Xiu, blame Cheyenne Fu Group, and blame Sheng Hu's gang who want to hunt you down. Luo Yan seemed to have not heard what he said and continued to talk to himself. There are 206 bones in the human body. Chen Yingjun's bones are all broken. That guy has been afraid of pain since he was a child. I think he must have cried in pain when he died. Every time I think of this, I feel so uncomfortable that I can't breathe. But you probably don't know it, right? It doesn't matter, now I'll let you feel it. As he said that, the dragon elephant turned over, and Luo Yan slapped the old man Chang's foot with the sword face. The old man Chang screamed immediately, and the leg that was hit by the dragon elephant immediately became bloody and all the bones inside were shattered. You little bastard. You will die a miserable death. Ruin Xiu will not let you go. Su Jingyuan of Shenghu Group will not let you go either. Luo Yan raised the hard sword stained with blood and minced meat and said calmly, it doesn't matter. I won't let them go either. After saying that, he struck down with another sword. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.